Chapter 79. Su Chengwan Yu Luin Bai glanced back and smiled. Killing out of love or killing out of hatred? How could a level 60 priest kill a level 70 priest within 8 minutes? Su Chengwan Yu, the return of the homicidal maniac. This time, Su Wan really became famous in one battle. Posts discussing her could be seen everywhere in the game's Huaxia region's forum. Every post had a video of Su Wan killing Hui Maui Xiao. Of course, these videos were posted by those onlookers and were not complete videos. This caused everyone to only see the process of Su Wan killing Hui Maui Xiao again and again, but there was no other content. Very clearly, the person who posted this video wanted to guide the direction of public opinion. Everyone unanimously thought that Su Wan really bullied people too much. When this matter happened and was pushed to the peak of public opinion by everyone, Su Wan was having a meeting with Winless and the others in the guild encampment in the city. Phoenix dances in the 9th heaven had already been successfully promoted to a level 3 guild. The upper limit of guild members had also risen to 500 people. Originally, within an hour, it was filled with 500 people, but now, there were only 200 or so members left in the guild. Is it more or less cleaned up? Ends of the Earth glanced at Winless and asked in a low voice. In the afternoon, Su Wan once said in the guild channel that she wanted to invite everyone to watch a show. Soon after, she sent the coordinates that Hui Maui Xiao sent to her to the guild. This move was clearly really inviting everyone to watch a show, but secretly wanted to find out the spies sent by other guilds that were lurking in Phoenix Dance's guild. Regarding this kind of thing, it was not the first time that Su Wan dealt with it, and she had already privately told Winless and the others about it. So this time's cleaning operation was still considered smooth. Although the remaining people can't be 100% trusted, it's estimated that there aren't many spies left. Winless' tone had always been especially calm. Listening to his words, Su Wan nodded her head. Our Phoenix Dances currently doesn't need too many people. People are valued for their loyalty and not their numbers. Right now, these 200 people are the foundation of our guild's future development. In the future, when the guild grows stronger, they will all be veterans. In a while, Winless, send a guild notice and tell them that in the future, as long as they are loyal and devoted to Phoenix Dances, they will all be included in our Phoenix Dances elite battle team. Regardless of their level and profession, they also don't look at their operation and awareness. Right now, Phoenix Dances still didn't have her own elite battle team and veteran members. This kind of promise placed in a big guild would definitely be a huge gift, and placed in a small guild like Phoenix Dances in the 9th heaven, it didn't seem to be a big promise. But Su Wan believed that as long as tomorrow comes and they personally witnessed how reliable and powerful their ally was, these 200 people would definitely be dead set on staying. Even if there were other people's spies among them, Su Wan reckoned that they would probably immediately rebel. In the game world, strength was the symbol of everything. Su Wan knew that these few people were still lacking in maturity and time. Now, she could only borrow power from Su Rue. Hearing Su Wan's words, Ends of the Earth nodded. He still believed in Su Wan's methods. After all, she had been the vice leader in Shirtion for 5 years. And Winless on the side didn't speak. His expression was somewhat strange. What's wrong? Su Wan also noticed Winless' abnormality. Nothing. Winless, who returned to his senses, lightly shook his head. And at this time, Su Wan noticed that there was a page in the guild panel that kept flashing. She clicked on that page and a line of blood-red words flashed out. Shirtion Guild has already listed this guild as a hostile guild. Do you also list it as a hostile guild of this guild? Winless chose yes. After he chose, all the members in the guild saw this message. For a moment, the guild channel was in a mess, but Winless was still expressionless. He directly used his authority as the leader to list Wolf's Teeth Guild as a hostile guild. With the second guild message popping out, some timid or quick-witted members immediately chose to take the initiative to leave the guild. 10 minutes later, Phoenix Dances and the 9th Heavens Guild members were only left with the last 180 people. You can send a guild notice now. Su Wan didn't expect that Shirtion would choose this time to be hostile to their guild. This time was chosen to help them filter out a few dozen grains of sand. And Winless immediately sent the message according to what Su Wan just said. Then he glanced at Su Wan and said in a low voice, Just now, Shirtion privately messaged me. He wants me to kick you out of the guild. Otherwise, he will hunt down our Phoenix Dance's people all over the map in the future. Regarding such a request, Windlass naturally refused. But with a responsible attitude towards the guild, he still said this matter. Relying on his high level and good equipment, he would hunt down others all over the map at the drop of a hat. Tion only has this bit of ability. This kind of person, you have to find someone stronger than him and more unreasonable than him to properly teach him a lesson. As she spoke, Suwon smiled somewhat maliciously. Windlass, you privately message Tion. Tell him that Mingjudian will gather people and horses to the neutral map. I'll wait for him there. Wanyu, don't act recklessly. You're not Tion's opponent right now. Hearing Suwon's words, Windlass wrinkled his brows. Tion was not Hui Maui Xiao. Not only was his high level and good equipment, more importantly, his PK experience was very rich. His positioning and awareness were all superb. This kind of person, Suwon, who was currently level 60, could not beat him at all. I can't beat him, but there's someone who can definitely beat him to death. Suwon's tone was particularly certain. Windlass on the side had an inexplicable face. Who is it? He subconsciously asked, while Ends of the Earth looked at Suwon with a strange expression. Could it be the legendary regarding the mysterious relationship between Eternal Knight's guild leader and Su Chengwanyu? Ends of the Earth once heard Ice-Cold Small Feet talk about it in the dormitory. So right now, Ends of the Earth immediately thought of Night Rain. It's Night Rain. Sure enough, Suwon's answer proved his guess. Windlass, you first tell Tion according to what I said, then you make an announcement on the World Channel and tell everyone that tomorrow, our Phoenix Dances and Tion will settle their grudges on the neutral map. Everyone is welcome to watch. Seeing Suwon's confident appearance, Windlass nodded seriously. He didn't know how strong Night Rain was, but since Su Chengwanyu was Phoenix Dance's people, then regardless of whether Night Rain could defeat Tion or not, their Phoenix Dances and the Ninth Heavens people would absolutely stand behind Su Chengwanyu and not retreat a single step. Seeing that Windlass started to send messages, Suwon immediately sent a private message to Su Rue. Then she turned her head and looked at Ends of the Earth. I'm going offline. Today, everyone should go offline earlier and have a good rest. Ends of the Earth, after you go offline, tell Small Feet to wait until 11 o'clock in the middle of the night, when the forum's popularity is at its peak, to post the complete video he recorded today online. Understood. Ends of the Earth nodded and conveniently lit a row of candles for Hui Maui Xiao in his heart. Right now, in the entire World Channel, everyone saw Phoenix Dances and the Ninth Heavens Guild leader repeatedly broadcast the declaration of war announcement 3 times using the world loudspeaker. For a moment, a lot of people jumped out and expressed that they must be the first to watch, while Shirtyan's people incessantly ridiculed Phoenix Dances and the Ninth Heaven for being arrogant and conceited, not knowing what to do. Tomorrow, just wait to be blown up. When the World Channel was abnormally lively, Eternal Night Guild's Guild Channel was also very lively. Delicate Beauty. Small Hands, tomorrow, let's also form a team to go watch. Okay? Ice Cold Little Hands. Melancholy Sheep. I want to go see Su Chengwanyu. Ice Cold Little Hands. Younger Sister Sheep, you're definitely doing this on purpose. Don't you know that the 4 words, Su Chengwanyu, will summon a big boss? Sure enough, the next second, Night Rain. Tomorrow morning at 8:30, gather at the neutral map. Those who don't go online will all be kicked. Delicate Beauty. Leader Darren, do you want to form a team to go watch? Ice Cold Little Hands. Guild information. This guild's guild leader, Night Rain, went offline. Alright, just knew that he would go offline. Ice Cold Little Hands also went offline. Compared to other people's guesses and doubts, Ice Cold Little Hands clearly knew what their leader Darren will do tomorrow. At 11:12 in the evening that day, most people had already gone offline from the game. At this time, Lingshan Game Forum ushered in the largest traffic peak of the day. It was at this time that a video post suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I am the Emperor of Truth. True restoration of Su Chengwanyu and Hui Mao Yizhao's grievances from beginning to end. This post was not accompanied by any text description, only a very large video file. When you open the video, the first thing that appeared in everyone's line of sight was Silver Moon Lake. Su Chengwanyu and Hui Mao Yizhao, the 2 people quietly stood there and looked at each other. At this time, there was a voiceover. It was a crisp and deliberately lowered male voice. "Oh hey, isn't this Su Changwan Yu and Hui Maui Xiao? What are these legendary rivals in love doing? Everyone, please follow me and look." This voiceover was clearly added by the person who recorded the video. Soon after, the perspective of the video was zoomed in, and Hui Maui Xiao and Su Changwan Yu's following dialogue and expressions were clearly recorded. So the matter was like this. Just like the person who took things out of context, Ice-Cold Small Feet also very cleverly added his own voiceover with strong emotions at the appropriate time. For example, after Hui Maui Xiao inadvertently exposed her and Di Shirtian's intimate relationship, Ice-Cold Small Feet's voiceover appropriately sounded, "Oh hey. This is the difference between a real goddess and a green tea bitch. Other people have known each other for 5 years and haven't even held hands. She had known other people for less than 50 days and rolled the sheets." Subsequently, after Suwon continuously insta-killed Hui Maui Xiao, when Hui Maui Xiao angrily accused, Ice-Cold Small Feet also added a voiceover. "If you're afraid of death, why are you still playing online games? If you're killed, then take revenge for yourself. You look at other people's Su Changwan Yu." The entire video lasted for more than 10 minutes. Until the end, when Suwon exposed Hui Maui Xiao's relationship with Lone Wolf, as well as after she returned to the city and disappeared, Hui Maui Xiao's incomparably resentful gaze were all very realistically recorded by Ice-Cold Small Feet. At the end of the video was a black screen. On the black screen, a row of blood-red large characters was typed, "Right and wrong, gratitude and grudges, justice naturally exists in people's hearts." If you want to know what happened afterwards, please pay attention to the neutral map at 9:00 tomorrow. Phoenix dances in the 9th heaven versus Cherti in the battle of the century, on the verge of breaking out. Once this post was published, it immediately caused a huge uproar in the game forum. There had always been a lot of female players in Lingshan, and women had always been very emotional. In the afternoon, after the video of Su Changwan Yu bullying Hui Maui Xiao burst out, those female players were very angry and kept madly spraying Su Changwan Yu in the post. And now that the truth was exposed, those female players who had sprayed Su Changwan Yu felt that they were deceived for the first time, being used as a gun by someone with ulterior motives. So they were angry. Under this kind of public anger, the real identity of those few people who posted the video in the afternoon was very quickly dug out. Those people were actually people from Shirtian Guild. This really was Sima Zhao's heart. As a result, the direction of public opinion suddenly changed greatly. Not only Hui Maui Xiao, even the entire Shirtian Guild and Di Shirtian became everyone's target of crusade. Yi Tian very rarely went on the game forum. Too many things happened in the whole day today. This made Yi Tian's mood very irritable. After he and Winless set the coordinates to meet on the neutral map tomorrow, he went offline early to rest. When he received Elder Dawn Windwaning Moon's call, Yi Tian had just fallen asleep. "What's the matter?" Yi Tian's voice on the phone still carried a bit of sleepiness. Hearing his voice, Elder Dawn Windwaning Moon hesitated. "Tianji, if you have time, go take a look at the game forum. There are some matters regarding Hui Maui Xiao." Hui Maui Xiao. As soon as he heard this name, Yi Tian immediately became spirited. He hurriedly hung up the phone and then got down from the bed. He went to the study to open his private computer and logged into his account in Lingshan Forum. He didn't have to deliberately look for it. At a glance, he saw the post that was pinned to the top by the administrator. "I am the Emperor of Truth. True restoration of Su Changwan Yu and Hui Maui Xiao's grievances from beginning to end." Chapter 80. When Yi Tian was looking at the post, Su Wan and Su Rue were also nestled on the sofa, admiring Ice-Cold Small Feet's masterpiece. "This brat is also a talent." Su Rue heard the narration that Ice-Cold Small Feet added, and felt that it was very interesting. Seeing that there were so many people replying to him under the post, Su Rue's gaze flashed and a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. "Can I also do this tomorrow? Well, our family's General Su seems to have unknowingly learned some strange new skills again." Right now, Su Wan's expression was also very relaxed. Looking at the large number of replies to crusade against Hui Maui Xiao below the post, Su Wan thought that if Hui Maui Xiao saw this post, she reckoned that she would cry for the whole night. "Su Wan, do you think that if Yi Tian sees this post, Will he still stick up for Hui Mao Xiao? Right now, the video happened to be playing the part where Hui Mao Xiao vigorously denied her relationship with Lone Wolf, and ice-cold Small Feet's narration also only had one sentence. Explanation is concealment. Concealment is a story. He will. Suwon smiled. What is called female lead halo? That is, no matter what the female lead does, it is right. Even if the female lead does something wrong, the wrong is not her but the entire world. And if the female lead has an unclear relationship with other men, then it must be that man who covets our female lead, Darren's beauty. This is absolutely not female lead, Darren not picking up a bit. If you want to blame someone, blame her for being too beautiful. Turning off the video, Suwon deeply looked at Su Rue. Sleep early. Tomorrow morning on the neutral map, see you there. See you there. Su Rue nodded at Suwon. He waited for this day for a long time. The next day, Lingshan World, 8:40 in the morning. When Suwon went online, the people in the guild basically all came. Seeing that there were 300 members in the guild, Suwon slightly froze for a moment. She asked Dance Baby, who was in charge of recruiting new members, and only then did she know that the newly added members were all female players. They used this method to support Su Chang Wanyu. Little Pudding, Wanyu Jejia. I scolded you on the forum yesterday. I'm guilty. I repent. Today, I want to defeat the great demon king Di Shirtion with you. July 17. At worst, it's just death. Jejia is rich. You're not afraid of death. On the 7th of July. At worst, I'll just die. I'm rich, so you're not afraid of death. Dancing Baby. Sisters V5. When the members of the guild saw Su Chungwon-yu online, they began to flood the screen. Seeing their messages, Suwon was a bit surprised because there was no lack of very famous players she knew. For example, the popular woman. After she opened the regional competition ranking, she had always been a relatively powerful existence among female players. And the 7th of July was the most famous female local tyrant in the entire Huaxia region. Su Chungwon-yu. Thank you everyone. If everyone is here, we'll set off first. I'll bring everyone to the neutral map to meet our allies first. Join Phoenix dances, you guys won't regret it. After typing in the guild, Suwon communicated with Windless and gathered all the online members in the main city's guild hall. Then, Windless spent a lot of money in the game shop to buy the guild's collective teleportation array. According to the coordinates provided by Suwon, Windless immediately activated the teleportation. The large-scale teleportation across regions was relatively slow. Everyone only felt that there was a vast expanse of whiteness in front of them. After about 5 seconds, the white light dissipated and 300 people uniformly appeared on the neutral map. What caught their eyes was not the yellow sand-like battlefield as advertised on the official website, nor was it those giant monsters with big blood-red words above their heads wandering around and biting people on sight. Right now, what appeared in front of the Phoenix dances and the 9th Heaven Guild members was a row of frozen monsters. Around those monsters stood 2 square teams of 500 people, and above those monsters, a slender figure stood in the air. He was wearing an ice-like mage robe. The silver-white robe danced in the air with the wind, quietly emitting a light blue radiance. Holy Sky Mage Robe. Lingshan World's only level 80 mage set so far. Level 80. In the entire Huaxia, and even in the entire Lingshan World, only one person can wear this mage robe. First in the whole region. Mage Knight Rain. Everyone raised their heads in unison. In the shadows of light and darkness, everyone could only see the man's exquisite silhouette, as well as the golden title of first in the region above his head that people couldn't help but want to worship. When Suwon came out of the teleportation array and saw this big scene in front of her, she also stared blankly. She couldn't help but raise her head to look at Su Rue in midair. Such a flashy scene, it wouldn't be the surprise he said, right? Right at this time, Su Rue also saw Suwon. He immediately slowly descended from midair. Phoenix Dance's people then saw that the legendary Huaxia region's first person was actually a broad-shouldered, narrow-waisted, long-legged, peerless and handsome man with a handsome face. Is there still justice in this world? As if to test the psychological quality of Phoenix Dance's people, the moment Su Rue stood in front of Suwon, the surrounding members of the Eternal Night Guild, who were originally standing quietly and posing, all shouted in unison, "Hello, Madam President." Su Wan. Phoenix dances in the ninth heaven. At this time, Su Rue and Wintless had already completed the Guild Alliance operation. Su Rue smiled and sent a team invitation to Su Wan. Su Wan immediately clicked accept. "This is your surprise? This is just the beginning." Su Rue suddenly took a step forward. Because the two people were now in a team relationship, his one hand around Su Wan's waist was not judged as malicious harassment by the system. The two people's figures slowly rose into the air again. Looking down from midair, she saw the frozen monsters on the ground and Su Wan's face slightly changed. Those monsters were specially driven to a specific location. At this time, looking down from midair, all the monsters just happened to form 5 big frozen words. "Xiao Wan, I love you." It was especially troublesome to do this in the game. In order to practice this, Su Rue had to study alone in a level 80 map for a week. How to move, how to freeze each part of the map. These all required exquisite skills and time control. Now is the time for your man to show you his strength. Su Rue slightly lowered his eyes and began to silently recite an incantation. Mage level 75 skill Ice Storm. Mage level 80 skill Absolute 0. 2 ice spells were released in succession, and the monsters on the ground that were sealed by the icebound spell immediately disintegrated like broken ice cubes. Then, everyone saw Su Wan, who was in Su Rue's embrace in midair, and her body emitted a white light. Level 61, Level 62, Level 63, Level 64, Level 65. It was actually a continuous increase of 5 levels. "Do you like this gift?" Su Rue slightly drooped his eyes and looked at Su Wan with a gentle gaze. Su Wan's expression was very complicated and her tone was never hesitant. How did you do it?" Su Wan knew that the monsters in the neutral map gave high experience, but it wasn't to such an outrageous degree, right? Continuous increase of 5 levels. How many monsters did this require? Su Wan couldn't calculate it at all. Secret. Su Rue blinked at Su Wan and then fell down from midair with her in his arms. Right now, the girls in the Phoenix Dances Guild were already going crazy. "What Tion, what Lone Wolf, go to hell. Do you know Eternal Night? Do you know Night Rain? That's our family's Su Chengwan Yu's man. He has looks, and he has strength. As long as a person's eyes aren't blind, they will choose him." Seeing Su Rue and Su Wan return to the ground, more than 100 girls in the Phoenix Dances Guild shouted in unison, "Hello, brother-in-law." Su Rue, with a smile on his face, "Hello, everyone. Everyone in the Eternal Night Guild. Leader Darren, we're here. Leader Darren, where's your aloofness? Where's your ice cube face? You're smiling so gently at Phoenix Dances people. What are you trying to do? Grow up big, people. We're also your relatives, Chapter 81. When Tion brought Hui Maui Xiao and a group of younger brothers to the neutral map, the scene they saw was like this. Eternal Night's men were cheerfully bringing Phoenix Dances girls to farm monsters. Yes, it's this position. Good, use this skill. And the Eternal Night's girls? What are they doing, all the girls? Winless President, your blade is so handsome, Winless. All the girls. Winless President, do you have female friends? Winless. Phoenix Dances leftover men. Are we being despised by our allies? Despised, right? He must have been despised by her. Say it 3 times. Just when everyone was feeling sorry for themselves, Bing Xing, who had always liked to join in on the fun, saw Shirtian Guild's majestic team at a glance. He estimated that there were at least 500 people. 500 people. Count as. Nonsense, With the existence of 1,000 allies, Bing Xing immediately felt that his back was twice as straight. Even his voice was much louder than usual. Comrades, pay attention. Shirtian Dog is here. Following Bing Xing's voice, the scattered Phoenix Dance and Eternal Night members immediately returned to their formation and unknowingly stood behind Su Rue and Su Wan. At a glance, Shirtian saw the 2 people who were the moon surrounded by the stars. To tell the truth, he was a bit shocked. He didn't think that Su Chengwan Yu could really hook up with Night Rain. Night Rain President, I've heard a lot about you. Di Tian stepped forward and greeted Su Rue with a calm expression. But what kind of person is our family's General Su? How could he possibly pay attention to him? Di Tian thought the dignified District 4's #1 was completely ignored like this. Hui Maui Xiao, who had been standing by Di Tian's side, still had red eyes. She first glared at Su Wan and then looked at Su Rue with slight curiosity. Turns out that this was Huaxia District's #1, Night Rain. How could he be together with Su Chengwanyu? He must have been deceived by Su Chengwanyu. Seeing that Su Rue didn't want to pay attention to Di Tian, Hui Maui Xiao, who always felt that she was the most approachable, suddenly stepped forward and said in a tactful tone, "Night Rain President, we came here today to settle our personal grudges with Su Chengwanyu. This was agreed upon yesterday. You must not be deceived by her, she..." Heh. A sneer cut Hui Mao Yizhao's voice short. Su Rue took a step forward, lowered his eyes and dangerously looked at this self-righteous woman in front of him. Personal grudges? Didn't our family's Xiao Wan kill you dozens of times? You can go home and find a man, but our family's Xiao Wan can't find me? As he spoke, Su Rue raised his eyebrows and the corners of his lips pulled into a careless smile. What, you only found a man, Di Tian? Lone Wolf didn't come? I wanted to take care of 2 of them at once. There's no challenge in fighting just one of them. Night Rain. Hearing Su Rue's words and seeing his aggressive gaze, Di Tian took a step forward and subconsciously blocked Hui Maui Xiao behind him. Men's matters should be solved by men. Don't involve women. So Di Tian, you still remember that you're a man. When you chased after my family's Xiao Wan, why weren't you a man? Su Rue's gaze was ice cold, and the words he spoke at this time also had no warmth. If they had been in the same district, he would have disbanded the Shirtian Duke Association long ago. Fortunately, it wasn't too late now. Night Rain, it's useless to say more. Since you're willing to stand up for Su Chengwanyu, then let's duel. While speaking, Di Tian had already raised his hand and waved the people around him to retreat. A large space immediately appeared beside him. Although his level wasn't as high as Night Rain, Di Tian was very confident in his skills. Moreover, swordsmen were the most advantageous profession in PK and Lingshan. Not only did they have high defense and thick health, their attack was off the charts, but swordsmen also had a skill that gave other professions an incomparable headache. Sealing Sword. Once it is released and hits the target, it will seal the target for 5 seconds. Within 5 seconds, the target will not be able to use any of their profession skills. Seeing Di Tian's serious and solemn appearance, Su Rue just lightly took a step forward. Right now, it was just past 9 o'clock. A large number of players constantly poured into the entire neutral map. A small portion came to train and see the scene, but the majority of the people came to watch the excitement. They originally thought that they could see another showdown between Di Tian and Su Chengwanyu's old lover. Who knew that the one Di Tian faced would actually be Youngye's Night Rain? What kind of situation is this? At this time, those spectators who had the foresight to squat early in the morning immediately proudly explained to the people who arrived later. This matter is actually like this blah blah blah, like that blah blah blah, got it? Everyone. What the heck? So it's like this Right now, Di Tian had already begun to release his skill, Sword Entanglement, the most commonly used primary skill of swordsmen. When fighting monsters, you can pull monsters. When PK, you can instantly pull the opponent to your eyes, making the long-range professions lose their advantage. Leader, be careful The onlookers of Youngye had never seen Su Rue PK with others. At this time, seeing that Di Tian had already made a move first, and Su Rue was still standing motionless in the same place without any action of wanting to chant his skill, everyone couldn't help but worry. Although our family's leader Darren's level is low, he doesn't know how to PK at all. In fact, does Su Rue really not know how to PK? At this time, Su Rue only felt a suction coming from his face, pulling his body and instantly arriving in front of Di Tian. Di Tian's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. He immediately activated the sealing sword, and then, there was no then, until Di Tian's health reached the bottom and he loudly fell to the ground. Everyone inexplicably maintained a sluggish state with their mouths wide open. Who can tell Lousy what just happened? It's void. Only Su Wan clearly saw that the moment Su Rue arrived in front of Di Shirtian, Su Rue used a level 65 mage's skill, Void, to strike the target with a 4% chance of instant death. If an ordinary mage used this skill, it could only be used as a close-range critical hit because the 4% chance of instant death was actually a very deceptive setting in the game. It was basically useless. But this skill immediately became unrecognizable in front of Su Rue, this martial arts expert. When he just entered the game, Su Rue mastered this skill. He experimented with those tens of thousands of small monsters. In the end, he discovered that as long as the distance between him and the opponent was close enough, and he controlled the strength of the attack and the most precise position of the attack, he could 100% kill in one hit. Of course, the most demanding condition was that the position of the attack must be the opponent's weakest point. It was this kind of ordinary skill that was used by Su Rue to perfection. Almost in a single move, he completely killed Di Shirtian. And after Di Shirtian fell, Su Wan immediately used a forced resurrection on him. After resurrecting, Di Shirtian was still somewhat baffled. Until he felt that Su Chengwanyu had been healing him, he had no choice but to accept the fact that he had already died once. And Huimaoi Xiao on the side had clearly been frightened by that unforeseen event just now. She subconsciously retreated a few steps, somewhat fearfully looking at Su Rue, completely forgetting that as a priest, she had to add blood to her man. When she thought of it, Su Wan had already helped Di Shirtian recover his health. She lightly put down her priest's staff and immediately looked at Su Rue with dissatisfaction. Next time you kill him, can you delay for a few seconds and let me have time to chant a skill? Onlookers. Su Rue, okay. After answering Su Wan's words, Su Rue turned his head and looked at Di Shirtian next to him. Come on, this time it will definitely exceed 5 seconds. Di Shirtian. Di Shirtian had played online games for several years. These years, he had always been aloof and unrivaled. The days where he stood in the clouds were too long. At this moment, he suddenly fell from the clouds into the mud. His mood immediately fluctuated greatly. At this time, he heard Su Rue's slightly mocking words. Di Shirtian's expression turned sinister, and he suddenly released the sealed sword that had long been on cooldown at Su Rue. He hit the target. It was sealed. Looking at the blood-red seal word revolving around Su Rue's body, Di Shirtian's eyes were ruthless as he released 3 swordsman's high critical strike skills in succession. Go to hell. Go to hell. Go to hell. Blood Rain Sword. The skill's effect lived up to its name. Blood rained down from the sky. The red was soul-stirring. And in that blood red, Su Rue's figure floated like an immortal. The holy sky robe with a light blue light effect was not stained with a trace of blood. 5 seconds passed in a flash, and Di Shirtian, who had released several skills in one breath, did not see Su Rue, who had low defense and low health, fall to the ground as he wished. When the blood rain dispersed, Su Rue was still standing there unscathed. Onlooker A. Heavens! Night Rain dodged all the attacks. This was simply a godly movement. I want to turn on the recording. Buddy, did you turn on the recording? Onlooker B. This is the legendary god of PK. Your mother. It blinded Lousy's aluminum alloy dog eyes. Onlooker C. Fuck. Night Rain didn't lose a single drop of blood. This is not scientific. Su Wan. Do you know Qinggong? Have you seen Lingbo micro steps? If I told you that Su Rue's Qinggong is 100 times more powerful than the male protagonists in the martial arts novels that you know, I don't know how you would feel. At this moment, Su Wan suddenly thought of a very popular saying on the internet. Mortals are fish lips. Chapter 82. This is impossible. His ears were full of other people's praises for Night Rain. Di Shirtian blankly looked at the intact Su Rue. He did not believe that a person could escape the skill attack range set by the game just by moving. This was absolutely impossible. This was not true. At this time, Di Shirtian's vision was in a trance. His mind was unstable, and he even forgot to continue attacking Su Rue. At this moment, Su Rue suddenly raised his staff and released the Mage level 75 skill, Seal of Time. This was a group sealing skill that could freeze the target character within the effective range for 10 seconds. Tion naturally could not escape, and in the next 10 seconds, Blizzard Spell and Ice Curse came down one after another. Tion's health once again bottomed out. This time, Suwon had already grasped the best opportunity. Almost at the moment when Tion fell, the Forced Resurrection skill was immediately cast on his body, and then the healing skill. It was the same as last time. Continue. Surue still looked at Tion with a cold face. I don't want to waste too much time on trash. Trash that after living for more than 20 years, this was the first time Tion was called trash. At this time, he clenched the long sword in his hand and suddenly rushed towards Surue. Situyi, you're going too far. Well, it seems that he completely shed all pretense of cordiality and even used the name in reality. Although Yi family was not in Haiching, it was also a prestigious family. He more or less understood the matters of Haiching's Situ family. Tion knew that Situyi was weak and sickly since childhood. He did not believe that he, a dignified fighting champion, could not beat down a medicine jar in the game. Skills were not good to use, so he simply fought in close combat, physical attacks. With Situyi's weak mage health, he could grind him to death. It had to be said that although he was in a rage, Tion's IQ had strangely risen. It was a pity that he did not know that this Situyi was no longer that Situyi. Seeing the heavy sword's swift and fierce attack in front of him, Surue smiled disdainfully and simply threw his magic staff into the air. Then, Surue slid forward and appeared in front of Tion. Swords are not used like this. While speaking, a novice wooden sword had already appeared in Surue's hand. This was the small wooden sword that the system gifted to each character in Lingshan when they were born in the novice village. It was not restricted by the profession and anyone could use it. The short and crudely made beginner's sword and Tion's gleaming silver-heavy sword formed a sharp contrast. The two swords intertwined in midair. Surue drew a sword flower and directly pierced Tion's vital point. Tion's heavy sword also pierced Surue's body at this time. Time seemed to have slowed down countless times at this moment. Surue's wooden sword itself was short and small. Based on the two people's current position, Tion's sword should have injured Surue first. Unfortunately, the reality was the opposite. Surue's body made the most perfect reaction in an instant. He dove horizontally, and Tion's attack missed. At this time, Surue's wooden sword directly pierced into Tion's armor. 1888 A high damage value floated out from the top of Tion's head, once again blinding everyone's aluminum alloy eyes. Passerby A. Your mother, using the novice wooden sword's attributes of 10 to 20, you can make Tion, who has a full body of plus 10, lose 1888 HP. System, are you playing with me? Passerby B. What do you know? This is the legendary critical strike. As long as your operation and awareness are unparalleled, even if you are barehanded, you can still deal over 1,000 damage. Otherwise, how could Lingshan be said to have the highest degree of realism in the world? But this is also the first time I saw someone do this with my own eyes. Night Rain is really too motherfucking awesome. Lousy is convinced. Passerby C. Great God Night Rain. Through the autumns and 10,000 generations, longevity will be the same as the heavens. Passerby D. Just as everyone was exclaiming in admiration, Surue once again flashed. His ghostly figure circled behind Tion, and the wooden sword in his hand gave a backstab. 2,000. Damn! At this time, the assassins in the crowd were boiling because the move that Surue just used with the novice wooden sword was impressively the assassin's assassination skill, surprise attack backstab. Whether it was his speed or movements, or even the angle and strength of his hand, it could all be called a textbook-level existence. Not waiting for the assassins to finish exclaiming in admiration, Surue neatly gave Tion a set of chain swords. 2,000, 2,000, 2,000. Then, Tion was once again gloriously game over. Everything happened too fast. Until Tion was forcefully resurrected by Suwon, Surue had already put away the novice wooden sword, and just happened to receive the magic staff that fell from midair. At this time, Tion's complexion was ashen, looking like he had lost confidence in life. The surroundings suddenly became very quiet. At this time, no matter what kind of mood everyone had at the beginning, everyone coincidentally kept silent at this time. Night Rain's strength, that kind of inconceivable godlike strength, made you unable to even have the courage to be envious and jealous. No one dared to laugh at Tion, because they knew that in front of Night Rain, anyone present would be beaten black and blue. Still want to come? A careless tone slowly sounded. Su Rue played with the magic staff in his hand, lightly raised his eyebrows and glanced at Tion. There was no provocation nor disregard in this glance. It was so calm that it made people flustered. At this moment, Tion truly realized that from the beginning, Night Rain was not provoking him at all. An ant vainly trying to shake an elephant was overestimating its own capabilities. And the elephant leisurely walked directly on the road, not because it was ignoring the ant, but because the ant had never appeared in its eyes. The height was different, the field of view was different, and the state of mind was also very different. Without answering Su Rue's words, Tion's figure slightly swayed and directly disappeared in front of everyone. Tion went offline. Tion at least still maintained the pride of a man. He went offline, and from then on, he never went online again. Of course, this was all in the future. At this time, seeing Tion directly go offline, the surrounding people were both surprised and felt that it was natural. No one could stay on this matter if it was placed on them. Once Tion went offline, the Tion members who were subdued by Su Rue's domineering attitude also left dejectedly. Those who returned to the city, those who went offline went offline. Hui Maui Xiao still stood in the same place, her complexion ashen. The man who could originally shelter her from the wind and rain, who could do everything for her, was beaten black and blue by Night Rain in front of her eyes. Hui Maui Xiao's heart was shocked. For the first time, she knew that there would actually be such a powerful man in the game. And such an outstanding man was actually used by Su Chengwanyu, that homicidal demon, to cheat. This was really too much. Night Rain, seemingly exhausting all the strength in her body, Hui Maui Xiao suddenly stepped forward and called Su Rue. I have some words I want to say to you about Su Chengwanyu. And Su Rue raised his eyebrows, not concealing the disgust in his eyes at all. Extremely boring. As he spoke, he already unhesitatingly strode towards Su Wan. Night Rain, do you really believe that Su Chengwanyu never liked Tion? Seeing that Night Rain refused to pay attention to her, Hui Maui Xiao had no choice but to shout loudly. Her shout actually made those onlookers who hadn't gone far stop their footsteps. Your mother. Today's big play. You've just finished singing and I'm on the stage. Is this going to change from fighting and killing to love? Chapter 83. Night Rain, do you really believe that Su Chengwanyu never liked Tion? Hui Maui Xiao's words didn't set off the slightest ripple in Su Rue's heart, but these words made the surrounding members of Eternal Night and Phoenix Dances, the two great guilds, especially the girls in the guild, unhappy. Pretty beauty. Hey, that shameless guy over there. Your man has already gone offline, and you're still trying to seduce our Prince Charming. Can't you have some integrity and self-awareness? Our family's president's male god is Goddess Wanyu's. What does it have to do with you? On July 7th. That's right. Which woman hasn't fallen in love with a scumbag before? Even if one you really liked Trashman Tion before, that was also in the past. Popular woman. There is a kind of green tea called Hui Maui Xiao, 50 cents a piece, buy one get one free. Dance baby. Auntie, it's not popular to sow discord now. You're even a vicious supporting female character, and I think you're too out. In front of Feng Wu's young ladies, Hui Maui Xiao immediately transformed into a slag with only 5 battle power. She moved her lips, an expression of tears flowing before she spoke. It was a pity that the surrounding male onlookers were enjoying themselves, who had the mood to have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Moreover, if everyone still couldn't see Hui Maui Xiao's essence by now, then they should really eat some brain-dead pills to pull up their IQ that was lower than normal. How boring. Su Rue walked in front of Su Wan and smiled at her. Do you want me to help you level up? All right. Su Wan nodded her head. The two people were still in a team state, So Su Wan simply and straightforwardly followed the captain, and then the two people left this place of trouble as if no one else was present. When Hui Mao Yishao struggled out of everyone's siege, she discovered that Yi Yu and Su Chengwan Yu had already left. This day was a very lively day. This day was also a milestone day for Lingshan in the Huaxia region. After Dishir Tian went offline, someone quickly uploaded the video of Night Rain killing Dishir Tian to the forum. A PK god has appeared in the Huaxia region. If you're not convinced, come fight me. How did the number 1 Sakura of the 4th district get crushed into dregs? Throughout the day, the entire forum was flooded with incoherent comments and videos that had been replayed hundreds of thousands of times. The entire Huaxia forum was almost paralyzed by the overwhelming number of visitors. Night Rain became a god in one battle. The Huaxia region became famous in one battle. He smiled proudly at all heroes. Even Jack, who had always thought highly of himself as the number 1 fighter in the Northern American region, also climbed over the wall and downloaded Night Rain's PK video and reposted it on his personal homepage. The topic of PK God Night Rain's real and virtual world, the topic of profession and profession switching swept the global region of Lingshan. Even this also made a definite contribution to the future introduction of the second profession change and the 2 major profession skill switching in Lingshan. Under such an atmosphere, an inconspicuous ID silently uploaded a short video that most people had never seen before on the forum. In Lingshan, which family is strong in showing affection? OP. Little icy cold hands. I won't speak. I'm just a porter for little video. This was a short video. At the beginning of the video, Night Rain was in midair, waving her staff, and immediately, thousands of miles of glaciers appeared below. Then the video screen changed and Su Chengwan Yu appeared from the transmission array. Endless yellow sand. Among thousands of people, 2 people looked at each other. At this time, the background music sounded. It was the season's most popular love song, 1,000 Years in a Glance. Afterward, the video screen did a special soft light treatment. Night Rain walked in front of Su Chengwan Yu, held her with one hand, and the 2 people flew into the air. Then the view of the video changed from the sky to the earth. Everyone saw the frozen monsters on the ground automatically form 5 big words. Xiao Wan, I love you. There was no need to watch anymore. Many girls in front of the computer who inadvertently clicked on this video were already crying. Woo woo woo. Night Rain is so handsome and so infatuated. To have such a lover in this life, I'm really willing to die immediately. An hour later, Little Icy Cold Hands video actually stood out from a large number of PK videos and occupied the top position of the forum's red post. After those PK madmen who were originally unconvinced clicked on it, they originally wanted to find fault, but in the end, they could only silently withdraw and continue to ridicule in their hearts. Your mother, you're handsome, it's fine if you're good at PK, but you're chasing a woman, it's a grade higher than us brothers, low-key, luxurious, and meaningful. Can't you just let us mortals have fun? If Lousy could have 1/10 of Night Rain, no, 1% would do. Using his 1% to chase after the school bell next door would be easy and without any pressure. Okay? Going offline from Lingshan, Su Rue rubbed his arms. Although Lingshan advertised as having the highest degree of realism, but today in the game, when Su Rue used the wooden sword to fight Yi Tian, because of the limitations of the game data, he used internal strength and forcibly poured his internal strength into that wooden sword. Otherwise, how could it cause such a high damage value? Now that he went offline, Su Rue's arms were slightly sore. This was because of the game data's rejection of internal strength, causing a backlash. Sighing, Su Rue simply sat cross-legged on the bed and began to adjust his internal breath. Time passed by minute. When Su Rue opened his eyes again, it was already an hour later. Separated by the bedroom door, he smelled the fragrance coming from the kitchen. That fragrance was particularly strong, and it was also mixed with a trace of a familiar aura to Su Rue. The chef came really early today. Perhaps it was because today's consumption was too big. Su Rue was really a bit hungry. He stood up and went straight to the kitchen. As a result, when he walked to the kitchen door, Su Rue's whole person was stunned. Su Wan stood in the kitchen, wearing an apron, her straight black hair loosely tied behind her head. At this time, she was stirring the soup with a serious face. Because her back was facing the door, Su Wan did not immediately notice Su Rui's arrival. The kitchen had already prepared 2 dishes, exquisite in appearance and rich in fragrance. Su Rui recognized the 2 dishes at a glance. One was shredded chicken, and the other was salt-fried meat, and what Su Wan was currently cooking was ginger sauce fish fillet. Su Rui unconsciously blurted out the name of the dish. This was his favorite dish when he was in the General Fu. You even smelled this. Su Wan heard Su Rui's voice and immediately chuckled. It's my first time cooking. If it doesn't taste good, don't get angry, ah. How could that be? As long as it's something you cook, I can eat it all. Su Rui leaned against the kitchen door, his hands crossed over his chest, quietly watching Su Wan's back. Su Wan, this is the first time you cook for me? Su Wan's hand holding the kitchen spatula slightly stiffened. Is that so? I didn't notice. Hee. Su Rui smiled and remembered that in the last world, he deliberately found an excuse to stay overnight, and Su Wan only ordered an unpalatable takeout to send him away. Was their relationship not quite the same as it had been before? Su Wan, I'm really happy today. How about I go open a bottle of red wine? Saying this, Su Rui didn't wait for Su Wan to answer and went back to his bedroom. Now, all the high-end furniture and expensive red wine in the bedroom were also flown over by our family's young Master Situ. Hearing Su Rui's footsteps leaving, Su Wan stared blankly at the fish fillet in the pot and was somewhat lost in thought. She didn't know what happened to her. She clearly warned herself not to give him any hope, but today, she was inexplicably moved by him, especially when Su Rui brought her to level alone in the afternoon. Su Wan had long noticed that his arm was strange, but seeing that he kept enduring, Su Wan didn't ask much. But after going offline, Su Wan still went to the door of Su Rui's room immediately. She wanted to take a look at his situation, but in the end, she saw Su Rui recuperating on the bed. At that moment, Su Wan suddenly felt a bit distressed. So after she turned around and left, she didn't return to her room but directly went to the kitchen. According to the memory of the little Junju that she received when she was in the Great Xia dynasty, she found some simple dishes that Su Rui liked to eat in her memory and busied herself in the kitchen. Perhaps at this time, Su Wan still didn't feel or was even unwilling to admit one thing. Chapter 84. For the next few days, Su Rui kept bringing Su Wan to the neutral map to level up. Everywhere they went, thousands of miles were frozen. For such a big scene, the onlookers could only express envy and jealousy. And hate? Please, if you don't want to be chased by night rain, it's better to swallow this word into your stomach. Ever since that day when Night Rain abused Di Shirtian until he went offline, the next day, Shirtian Guild changed owners, and Hui Maui Shao never appeared again. But did you think that this was the end? On that day, Night Rain issued a bounty for the entire server, for all the players in Shirtian Guild, just like when Di Shirtian issued a bounty for Su Chengwanyu. Only that at that time, it was a guild for one person, and now, it was a person for an entire guild. Not long after, Shirtian Guild automatically disbanded. After Shirtian disbanded, Night Rain did not revoke the bounty, but changed the target to Wolf's Fang Guild. Lone Wolf also tried to communicate with Su Chengwanyu and even Night Rain, but it was very clear that his move did not have any effect. Wolf's Fang's people withdrew from the guild on the second day after they were chased. Not long after, Lone Wolf also no longer went online, after Wolf's Fang disbanded. When Huaxia region's players thought that the bloody storm in Jianghu had finally passed, a big list suddenly appeared on the forum. Everyone on the list was impressively the people who took the bounty to hunt down Su Chengwanyu. Even those who had been slapped in the face on the forum who ridiculed Fengwu as not worthy of eternal night were also on the list. At this time, everyone understood that our family's Night Rain Darren wanted to become enemies with the entire server for a woman. It must be known that the people who casually hooted and ridiculed on the forum were basically scattered in Huaxia's various major regions, and some were even the backbone of the major guilds in other major regions. Could it be that he wanted to become the public enemy of the entire server? Well, even if Night Rain didn't do this, he was also the public enemy of all male players in the entire server. Because after Night Rain's big name list came out, the post was full of extremely enthusiastic messages from female players. All the girls felt that Night Rain's leader simply couldn't be too domineering. Su Changwonyu simply couldn't be too happy. In order to let this pair of lovers finally get married, the girls decided to spontaneously clear the obstacles for them in their own district and clean up the sinners. Just like this, the big chase that lasted for 2 months began, and this experience was still the most talked about legend in Lingshan after a long time. With Su Rui's help, Suwon quickly rose to level 80 in Phoenix dances in the 9th Heaven Guild, also gradually gained a foothold in Huaxia's 4 districts, faintly becoming the leader of the 4 districts. After forming an alliance with Eternal Night, Phoenix Dances also formed an alliance with Xiaoyao Pavilion. The 3 guilds helped each other, and not long after, they attacked the first guild fortress city on the neutral battlefield. And this city was named Late Moon City by Su Rui and was directly gifted to Suwon. Feng Wu's girls thought, brother-in-law is so handsome. Brother-in-law is the best. Girls from the Eternal Night Guild. Mr. Guild Leader, will you die if you don't show off your love for a day? Hashtag our president has a disease that will kill him if he doesn't flaunt his love. Can he still be saved? Waiting online, it's quite urgent. Hashtag regarding the Eternal Night people's broken glass hearts, Su Rui didn't have time to pay attention to them. Because after helping Suwon reach the maximum level, Su Rui rarely went online. Offline, he was busy dealing with Yi family. Speaking of which, after Yi Tian withdrew from Lingshan, he immediately took over the family business and began to set up a trap in the stock market to retaliate against Situ family. Regarding the stock market sniper war, Su Rui really didn't have much experience. Fortunately, he still had the financial genius Su Xiaowan by his side. The 2 people joined hands and quickly defeated Yi family. Su Rui even took advantage of his illness to take his life and directly made Yi family bankrupt. After Yi family went bankrupt, there was finally no movement from Yi Tian's side. But at this time, Suwon did not immediately request to leave the mission world as usual. Suwon didn't leave, and Su Rui naturally wouldn't take the initiative to ask her to leave. In fact, Su Rui liked this world very much, and he knew that Lingshan would be updated again after 2 months. This time, it would be updated to a new level of 100. Moreover, it would also introduce a new marriage system, shop system, territory defense system, and even the immigration system that people paid the most attention to. The so-called immigration system was specially opened for some citizens who changed their nationality in the process of playing the game. As long as you pay a certain fee, you can migrate from your original region to the region where your current nationality is located. Of course, Su Rui didn't care about these at all. He just wanted to wait for the marriage system to open to propose to Suwon at the first moment, and then the 2 people would hold a more grand wedding in the game than in the last world, and every world has to get married and whatnot. Thinking about it, it's also great. Suwon didn't know Su Rui's thoughts. The reason why she didn't leave was because Suwon knew that according to the rules of this world, the female lead Hui Mao Yishao wouldn't be defeated so quickly. She didn't have Di Shirti on now and could only dejectedly leave the game world. But what kind of person was Hui Mao Yishao? She was the kind of person who went out in a daze and got hit by a car. The driver must be a tyrannical CEO. If she went to the milk tea shop to work to make ends meet, the customer she encountered must be an elite male who returned from abroad. If she died, in short, wherever our family Hui Mao Yishao goes, peach blossoms will bloom. That's right. This was the female lead's law. The female lead must become braver the more she suffers. The female lead must go out and meet a CEO. When the female lead was in a difficult situation, when she was framed, there would always be all kinds of CEOs who happened to pass by for various reasons. The facts were just as Suwon expected. Hui Mao Yizhao's real name was Yu Xiao Xiao. She and Yi Tian had already developed into a couple in real life, but after Yi family went bankrupt, Yi Tian was unable to recover from the setback. In order to let him pull himself together again, Yu Xiao Xiao began to go around asking those original Yi Tian's friends to lend a helping hand. Unfortunately, when Yi family's tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Who was still willing to help? On the contrary, there was a pervert who took a fancy to Yu Xiao Xiao's good looks and wanted to have something happen with her. Yu Xiao Xiao naively thought that that person was a good person. When she discovered that she had been fooled, Yu Xiao Xiao fled from the clubhouse in disheveled clothes in a fluster. Then, without even looking, she drilled into a strange man's car. Well, This man just happened to be an overbearing CEO. When the private detective sent all of you Xiao Zhao's recent situation to Su Wan's mailbox, Su Wan also didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This Yu Xiao Zhao's life could simply be written into several romance novels, okay? Since the heavens let Yu Xiao Xiao experience a second spring, Su Wan thought about it. Perhaps she really had to stay in this world for a few more months. 2 months' time passed by in a flash. Before Christmas, Lingshan finally updated with the latest version. The marriage system and the immigration system were all opened on time. After logging into the game again, all the players in the Huaxia region looked at the red roses all over the mountains and plains and the big pink words that continuously flashed on the world bulletin board. They were already completely immune, okay? What's Su Chengwan, you marry me? What's Su Chengwan, you, I love you? Night Rain, you're really enough. As a great god, using your life to show affection like this, have you ever considered the feelings of a single Wang? Have you ever understood the sorrow of a single man? All the single players expressed, Night Rain and Su Chengwan use big wedding and whatnot. The wedding I will definitely not go. It's said that gold coins will be given if you attend the wedding. It's said that the beauties in Phoenix dances are the bridesmaids. Well, it's not for the gold coins. It's definitely not for the beauties. Night Rain's proposal rose lasted for a full 3 hours in the game. Su Wan was always online, but she couldn't go with Su Rue to the auditorium set up in the game to get married. The matter was like this -3 hours ago when it was time to go online in the game. Su Wan went online for the first time because she remembered that she seemed to have a hidden mission that needed to be done. Opening the mission list, she found that mission, hidden mission, Mermaid King's Wish, unique, mission progress 0% mission hint. The Mermaid King, who has been sealed for 1,000 years, misses her other clansmen. Player, please go to the Mermaid's Village to find the Abyss Fish Demon and collect 100 amethyst ambers. This time, the system updated the level cap and new maps. The Mermaid's Village was a level 85 map. Su Wan didn't think much and directly teleported to the Mermaid's Village. Amethyst ambers were collected items and dropped when fighting the Abyss Fish Demon, but the drop rate was not high. While fighting, Su Wan saw the sky full of roses and the world announcement of Su Rue proposing to her. Following that was Su Rue's private message. Because Su Rue dealt with some Situ family's business today, he went online a bit later than Su Wan. Su Rue did not mention the marriage proposal. He first asked Su Wan's position and quickly teleported to her side. Chapter 85. According to the rules of the game, Su Wan's hidden mission was unique and the reward could not be shared with others. But when doing the mission, she could still form a team with others to collect the loot. Therefore, Su Rue naturally volunteered to form a team with Su Wan. The two people farmed together, and very quickly, they farmed 100 amethyst ambers. After collecting the collected items, Su Rue accompanied Su Wan to the Millennium Realm instance. Because they were in a team, Su Rue still entered the instance with Su Wan as a teammate and saw the Mermaid King's soul with his own eyes. Right now, the Mermaid King appeared very weak. Seeing Su Wan hand her the amethyst amber, the Mermaid King seemed to finally breathe a sigh of relief. She carefully took out a light blue egg and condensed all of the amethyst amber into nutrients. Using all of her soul power, she poured all of her vitality and remaining magic into the light blue egg. Mermaid King, this is my descendant. She has also been sealed for 1,000 years. Now, she finally has the chance to see the world with her own eyes. Kind warrior, I am about to leave. Please help me. Raise her well. Quest hint. The Mermaid King's Wish, unique. Quest progress 50%. Are you willing to accept the last words of the Mermaid King and help her raise the next generation? Su Wan. This egg was the Mermaid King's child? Well, I heard that most pets in the game are hatched from eggs. After hesitating for a moment, Su Wan still chose to accept. As a result, the Mermaid King naturally died with a smile, and the egg flashing with blue light quietly fell into Su Wan's palm. System notification. The Mermaid King's Wish, unique, quest has been completed. The reward obtained is the Mermaid King's descendant, pet egg. Do you wish to immediately hatch the Mermaid King's descendant? Su Wan chose yes. As a result, another line of words appeared in the system notification. The Mermaid King's descendant is a special, unique, pet. It possesses both the human and mermaid king bloodlines. Which bloodline would you like to activate? A. Human bloodline, able to act cute and act coquettishly. B. Mermaid king bloodline, able to move through water and move her tail. Suwon. System come out? Let's have a chat. What the hell are you doing? The planner of this mission was definitely a lunatic, right? Lingxing Game Planning Room. A certain crazy programmer Yuan Gij suddenly sneezed. Oh my. Which girl is thinking of me? In the game world, let's choose A. Su Rue, who had been following behind Su Wan, suddenly spoke in a low voice. Just now, Su Rue also saw the option in front of Su Wan. His intuition had always been accurate, and his perception was off the charts. The moment the option appeared in front of Su Wan, Su Rue had a particularly strong feeling. Choose A. I must choose A. Originally, Su Wan had already decided to choose B because in her opinion, the Mermaid King's bloodline pet should be a bit stronger. But at this time, she just happened to hear Su Rue's words. Su Wan hesitated for a moment and still chose A instead. It was just a game data, nothing more. Su Wan really didn't care much at that time. At this moment, the system notification flashed again. Player selection successful. Please wait online for 3 hours for the birth of a new life. The system warmly reminds you. Please do not leave, and please give the little life a little care. Let her know that there is true love in the world. Suwon. Su Rue. The system must have gone insane, right? Just like that, the two of them were trapped inside the instance dungeon. They stared at the egg for a good 3 hours. And at this time, Su Rue didn't forget to keep proposing on the world announcement. He didn't delay either of them. Say yes. Say yes. Be together. Be together. At this time, the world channel was already flooded with Night Rain Darren's support group, and Suwon's private mailbox was also filled to the brim. Compared to the liveliness of the outside world, the instance was deathly quiet. On the beautiful seabed, the remains of the original castle also disappeared after the Mermaid King disappeared. Su Rue and Suwon sat side by side. The two of them didn't speak. The atmosphere was harmonious and tranquil. In front of the two people, a giant pet egg emitting a light blue luster floated quietly. When the countdown ended, the blue light around the egg gradually dissipated, and then only a cracking sound was heard. A burst of soft yellow light flashed. After the light dissipated, Su Wan and Su Rue were completely stunned in place, dumbfounded. A fair and cute little girl with 2 ponytails, wearing a blue dress, shyly stood in front of the two people. She suddenly flashed a pair of big eyes. She first looked at Su Wan, then tilted her head and looked at Su Rue excitedly. Suddenly, she shouted, "Dad!" Su Rue. Su Wan. Who can tell her where this little girl who looks like Su Rue came from? What about the agreed pet? Have you ever seen your own pet call someone else Dad while wearing someone else's face? Su Wan was at a loss. That little girl happily took a step forward and threw herself into Su Wan's arms. Pouting her pink lips, she called out in a childish voice, "Mom!" Su Wan. System prompt. Pet unique Mermaid King's descendant has been born. Once this pet is bound, it can't be unbound for a lifetime. Asking player, do you want to bind it immediately? Su Wan was still a bit confused at this time, but the little girl in her arms suddenly flashed her big clear eyes, raised her head with a delicate and charming face, and called out in a childish voice, "Mom?" Su Wan. Okay. Bind it immediately. System prompt. Player Su Changwan, you successfully bound pet unique Mermaid King's descendant. Please immediately name your pet. Name. Su Wan was just about to casually pick a name when her priest robe was forcefully pulled by someone again. The little girl still raised her head, her eyes sparkling as she looked at Su Wan. Your mother, facing a smaller version of Su Rue, still delicate and charming and innocent, inexplicably making people soft-hearted. What to do? Mom, I have a name. The little girl's voice was still childish and pleasant to listen to. My name is Su Xiaosu, pet name Su Su. Speaking till here, Su Xiaosu quietly glanced at Su Rue. Su Xiaosu or something, Su Xiaosu or something, that's enough. But this is the name that Daddy gave Su Xiaosu means that she doesn't have a person, right Oh, almost forgot. She's actually not a person. She's just a group of data. Maybe she can also be called super artificial intelligence? Su Xiaosu. Little Su Su? This name made Su Wan's face black. Why not directly call her Little Su? Crisp? Add a bottle of beer and you can eat it, okay? System prompt. Pet naming successful. Su Wan. When did she name it? Lowering her head and seeing the 3 shining big words on top of the little girl's head, Su Wan was completely speechless. Okay, you'll be called Su Xiaosu. It's just a pet. Su Wan felt that she can't always haggle over a pile of data, right? Su Xiaosu immediately acted like a spoiled child and pulled Su Wan's arm, desperately shaking it a few times. Mom is the best. Su Su loves you the most. Of course, Su Su also loves Dad. Dad kisses. As she spoke, Su Xiaosu didn't forget to turn around and blow a kiss at Su Rue. Su Rue. At this time, Lingxin game planning room. There seems to be something wrong? There shouldn't be anything wrong, right? Chapter 86. The vigorous world marriage proposal that lasted for more than 3 hours finally ended after Su Wan exited the instance and clicked accept. Marriage in the game was much simpler than reality. After both parties confirmed their relationship, they could directly form a team of husband and wife to the wedding hall in the center of Longqing and have the NPC priest preside over the wedding. Of course, at this time, if the bride and groom wanted more blessings, they could use their own money to buy a supreme wedding invitation in the game shop and invite all the players in the server to participate in this banquet. According to Su Rue's plan, the wedding was very grand. The entire wedding venue was packed with players who came to give their blessings. However, because there was a variable that was originally outside of Su Rue's plan, the newlyweds who should have been the center of attention at the wedding ceremony were tragically ignored in the end. Dance, baby. Little sister, you're so cute. You're called Su Xiaosu. Don't tell me you're Wan Yu Jiejie's younger sister? Delicate beauty. Xiao Wu Jiejie. What's with your eyes? This is clearly our family's leader Darren's younger sister. Look at how much she looks like our leader. Melancholy sheep. Actually, I have a strange premonition again. On the 7th of July. Come, little lowly, obediently tell your older sister. Just whose younger sister are you? Su Xiaosu, tightly pulling the corner of Su Wan's clothes. Mama. This older sister's smile is so strange. Su Su doesn't want to be friends with her. On the 7th of July. Delicate beauty. I'm definitely hearing things, right? Melancholy sheep. Sure enough, my premonition was right. Dance, baby. You're Wan Yu Jiejie's daughter? How old are you this year? Su Xiaosu. I'm 6 this year. My mama is 24 years old. Delicate beauty. 17 years old and already has a baby and whatnot. Baby's father can't be my leader, Darren, right? Although there was a bit of a questioning tone, but looking at Su Xiaosu's appearance, Delicate beauty really couldn't convince herself to say that this was just a coincidence. Melancholy sheep. My intuition tells me that there's a story here. Popular woman. Susu. Can you tell us the story of your father and mother? Su Xiaosu, her eyes lit up. Okay, here's the thing. My dad and my mom were childhood sweethearts who were betrothed to each other before they were even born. Unfortunately, my mother's family declined when she was young, so she stayed with the Situ family and stayed with my father. However, the good times didn't last long. After Madame Situ found out that the two of them were secretly together, she broke them up and forcefully separated them. After that, my mother was forced to live in another place, and she had to raise me while going to school. Sob. So pitiful. Such a poor mother had to work 3 jobs a day and earn money for milk powder in the game at night. You guys see that she looks strong on the outside, but in fact, she's more fragile than anyone else. The most infuriating thing is that in the game, Mommy actually still has to be bullied by Di Shirtian and Huimaoi Xiao, that pair of sluts. Susu is so sad. Werwu. A group of female players. Goddess Wan Yu is so pitiful. A group of male players. No wonder Night Rain is so desperate to chase after his wife. This was the punishment for being a scumbag who abandoned his wife and daughter. Su Rue. Su Wan. Su Xiaosu, that's enough. If you talk nonsense again, I'll lock you in the pet bar and never let you out. Everyone. Afterwards, the rumors in the streets went like this. At Night Rain and Su Cheng Wan Yu's grand wedding ceremony, In order to express her love for Su Chengwanyu, Night Rain spent a lot of money to custom-make a humanoid pet in the game shop and gave it to Su Chengwanyu as a token of love. That super realistic character not only looked very similar to Night Rain, but it was also very intelligent. Not only could it call Daddy and Mommy, it could even tell stories with vivid expressions, although Lingshan customer service repeatedly explained that the super realistic intelligent pet was only the reward for Su Chengwanyu completing the hidden task. A group of local tyrant players only felt that they were being despised. Do you think I can't afford to spend this money? Come, say a price. Big Brother will tell you what a real cancer is. It has pincers, it's willful. As a result, everyone in Lingshan's planning room had no choice but to work overtime for 3 consecutive days, and 3 days later, the most expensive game prop in Lingshan was truly launched in the game shop. Custom-made pet. Once this prop came out, it was immediately warmly pursued by a large number of players in Lingshan. This was also considered an unexpected joy for the game operator. On Christmas, Lijiang City had a very timely snowfall. Su Rue originally planned to book a Western restaurant near his home and celebrate the holidays with Su Wan, but on such a good day, he was actually stood up. Lijiang City, a certain coffee shop in the center of the city. Are you very surprised to see me? Yu Xiaoxiao stirred the coffee with one hand, slightly raised her eyebrows, and calmly looked at Su Wan. Su Wan curled her lips. Say, what did you look for me for? I don't want to be ruthless towards you. Yu Xiaoxiao assumed a posture of having victory in her grasp. So as long as you withdraw from Lingshan now, I will let Feng Wu and Yong Ye's people go. Otherwise what? Tell your mixed-race boyfriend to kill us all? Su Wan couldn't help but smile. Oh yeah. What's that man's name again? Charlie or Chael? Do you think that just because he's good at business, he's good at games? Yu Xiaoxiao froze for a moment. She didn't know why Su Wan knew of Chael's existence, but these things weren't important right now. Chael, he's not an ordinary businessman. He's the prince of Phelps Principality. He has the ability to make the Situ family finished, and even acquire TX and Lingshan. Prince and whatnot, acquire the entire game company and whatnot. You brat, you read too many brainless novels. Is Yi Tian still okay? Su Wan suddenly asked inexplicably. Hearing Yi Tian's name, Yu Xiaoxiao's face darkened. You. Why are you asking this? This is a matter between me and Tian Gij. It has nothing to do with you. Oh, Tian Gij, calling him so affectionately. Does your family's Tian Gij know about your relationship with Chael, or that man called Charlie? As she spoke, Su Wan unhurriedly took out a stack of photos from her bag. They were all photos of Yu Xiaoxiao and that mixed-race handsome guy in bed. These photos are all taken pretty well. What do you think Yi Tian's reaction will be after seeing them? You're so despicable. Yu Xiaoxiao's face changed greatly. She grabbed the photos in her hands in a panic and tore them all up one by one. She wasn't wrong. She didn't betray Tian Gij. She was just desperate. Although she was coerced by Chael in the beginning, but now, at least Chael was willing to help Yi Tian make a comeback for her. She endured humiliation to carry a heavy load. Everything she did was because of love, because of Yi Tian. It's not my fault. I didn't want it either. Su Wan, it's all your fault. How can you be so vicious? Yu Xiaoxiao couldn't help but scream shrilly. Su Wan just looked at her indifferently. Your brain is grown on your own body, and the things you did were all done by yourself. Yu Xiaoxiao, you pushed everything to others so that you can betray your own feelings with a clear conscience? No, perhaps it shouldn't be called betrayal. People like you don't deserve to talk about feelings. This kind of brainless, but loved by everyone who could even treat cheating as true love and treat NPC as a proud female lead. Su Wan had really seen a lot. What do you mean you were forced by others? Did others hold a knife to your neck and let you cheat? Did Yi Tian cry and beg you to help him make a comeback? The so-called self-righteous, nothing more than this. And the origin of all this gratitude and resentment, in the end, was still Yu Xiaoxiao herself. She clearly knew the relationship between Disher Tian and Su Chengwanyu, but she was still unclear with Yi Tian, ambiguous and unceasingly. Is this really not intentional? A woman that can be cheap like this can also be considered a flower of wonder. Oh right, I almost forgot to give this to you. Su Wan took out the tablet computer from her bag and opened the already connected video. Look, It's a live broadcast. The prince's wedding is very grand, right? At this time, a grand wedding was being played on the screen of the computer, and the groom of the wedding had a very deep silhouette, blue eyes, pure black hair. This was Yu Xiaoxiao's current lover, Prince Chael. What is this? Suwan, you must have found someone to fake this. This isn't real. It's not real. Yu Xiaoxiao shook her head desperately. Her eyes were red and she firmly bit her lips. Suwan, what do you want to do? Why won't you let me go? Suwan shook her head. It's you who won't let yourself go. If you had been well-behaved and kept following Yi Tian, would today's matter have happened? Yu Xiaoxiao, everything was done by you. Don't use your true love for Yi Tian and sacrifice yourself for Yi Tian as an excuse. If you really love Yi Tian and have no feelings for Chael, why are you so excited when you see Prince Chael getting married? What do you feel wronged for? What do you think you are? The prince's true love? Have you read too many fairy tales? You are just one of his many lovers. Prince Chael is only interested in you for a while. The main reason he agreed to help you is because of Yi Tian's talent. As she spoke, Suwan pushed the tablet in front of Yu Xiaoxiao. Open your eyes and look carefully. Who is in the best man group? It's Yi Tian. The current Yi Tian did not have the decadence and loss when Yi family had just gone bankrupt. He wore a black formal attire, and the whole person looked energetic. No, it's not real, it's not real. Yu Xiaoxiao's body seemed to have been emptied of all her strength. She slid down from the seat and then, as if she had suddenly gone crazy, she madly ran out of the coffee shop. Suwan just looked at the figure in the snow. She quietly watched Yu Xiaoxiao run while talking on the phone, and then a speeding car crashed into her body at high speed. Bright red blood dyed the silver-white ice and snow red. Suwan quietly turned off her tablet, and her phone quickly rang. It's done very cleanly. Suwan picked up the phone and spoke in a low voice in a foreign language. A very elegant female voice came from the other side. This kind of existence that obstructs the royal family's face naturally needs to be erased as soon as possible. Of course, I still have to thank Su for your most generous help. Whether it's money or information, I am very sincerely grateful to you. You can rest assured that when my prince defeats Chael and succeeds in ascending the throne, he will definitely not forget the promise he made that day. Yi family will not have the chance to rise again. Then Suwan thanks your royal highness. After hanging up the phone, Suwan packed up her things and paid the bill. She slowly left the coffee shop alone. She stayed in this world for so long, exchanged all her stocks for sky-high cash, and used it all to support Queen Nia, waiting for this day. At this time, the scene of the car accident at the intersection of the street had already been surrounded by a large group of people. Blood was still spreading on the snow, but Suwan didn't even look at it. You're leaving? A low male voice suddenly sounded behind her. Suwan's footsteps sank, but she didn't look back. Sorry, I stole your points this time. You should know that I hate this kind of whore and still want to establish a memorial arch. Suwan behind her took a step forward, as if he wanted to grab Suwan's shoulder, but at this time, Suwan suddenly strode forward again. In the white snow, last time, he carried her on his back and walked forward step by step. This time, she always turned her back to him, maintaining the closest and farthest distance. Suwan, if there's a next time, I will still do this, so don't follow me anymore. Suwan's voice was particularly serious, and it seemed a little lonely in the drifting snowflakes. I don't remember how many people I've harmed, and I want to continue like this. And Suwan responded. His tone seemed careless, but in fact, he was very serious. Suwan, I've killed more people than you. I'm even more ruthless than you, and Suwan, do you know? I came to the lost space to find you and became a mission enforcer. Even if I can't get a point, it doesn't matter. As long as I can be in the same world with you, I feel very satisfied. Really? Suwan's voice was a little hesitant and absent-minded. At this time, she had already started to contact the headquarters to confirm the withdrawal from the mission. Suwan, I want to believe, but I don't dare to believe you. Please forgive me for being timid and selfish. I selfishly want more promises before I'm willing to deliver my heart to you. The heavy snow covered Suwan's line of sight. Suwan had already walked further and further away. At this time, The voice of mission failure sounded in Su Wan's mind. Yu Xiaoxiao died. The mission was judged as a complete failure. The mission failed. Su Xiaosu came out of nowhere, wearing a furry and round red down jacket. Seeing that Su Wan didn't speak, Su Xiaosu's eyes turned and she immediately said to herself in a childish voice, "After the mission fails, do I have to leave this world at the specified time? Dad, hurry up and copy the information from my microchip. I've already copied Godling's entire system. We'll use this information in the future." Su Xiaosu's words made Su Wan return to his senses. In fact, when he first saw Su Xiaosu in the game, Su Wan had a particularly strange feeling. And after going offline from the game that day, Su Xiaosu suddenly appeared in Su Wan's bedroom, which finally made Su Wan certain that there must be some kind of close connection between him and Su Xiaosu. And from Su Xiaosu's narration, Su Wan knew that as a super artificial intelligence that could change into an adult, Su Xiaosu turned out to be Su Wan's experimental product in a future world with advanced technology. "Dad, I'm actually just a data copy of the original body. Now, I can't leave the world of Ling Shan. However, after you come to a certain mission time and space and research my original body, our family of 3 can reunite again." This was the original words that Su Xiaosu said to Su Wan at that time. In Su Xiaosu's narration, including Su Wan, the 3 of them were a very happy family. Perhaps it was because the future that Su Xiaosu said was too desirable, or perhaps it was because he felt that his connection with her was really close. So Su Wan believed Su Xiaosu's words, the copy of Su Xiaosu that was put into this world from the future. She didn't come to sell her cuteness and show her existence. In fact, she shouldered a mission. That was to copy the data system of Ling Shan. When Su Xiaosu transferred all the data of Ling Shan into Su Wan's mind, she reluctantly turned into a data stream and returned to the game world of Ling Shan. In the future, she could only stay in this world. "Su Xiaosu, we will see each other again." Silently leaving this sentence, Su Wan also started the procedure to leave the mission world according to his previous practice. In the world of Ling Shan, in order to celebrate Christmas, the whole world was also wrapped in silver and snow was flying. Su Xiaosu quietly walked on the unmanned map, snowflakes falling on her petite shoulders. "Dad, Mom." Su Xiaosu suddenly wanted to cry a little, but it seemed that Dad had forgotten to set up tear ducts for her. She was given human feelings at the beginning, but she was not given the right to cry. Su Xiaosu's ears seemed to recall Su Wan's low voice from another world in the future. "You will be called Su Xiaosu, my and Su Wan's daughter. Your world doesn't need tears, because we won't let you cry. She, who has always existed in that world, must be very, very happy, right?" Su Xiaosu suddenly felt a little jealous of her original body. Chapter 87. Leaving the mission world. When Su Wan woke up in the executive cabin, her mind was still in a trance. When she saw the person who had been waiting next to the executive cabin, her brows unconsciously knitted. "Yi Xian, what's the matter?" Yi Xian, plane destroyer and O. For Yi Xian, who had been suppressing her, Su Wan was actually not hostile. She just saw Yi Xian's solemn expression at the moment and keenly felt that she was standing here waiting for her, definitely not for a good thing. "Zhang Yu left." Yi Xian looked down at Su Wan and lightly said, "I don't think she will come back." In the lost time and space, once each mission enforcer had accumulated enough points, they could exchange for anything, including leaving the ranks of mission enforcers and settling down in any time and space they like. As long as you have points, everything is not a problem. "So, you came to inform me that you are already my immediate superior?" Su Wan looked at Yi Xian and felt that things were not so simple. Sure enough, hearing Su Wan's words, Yi Xian's expression became more serious. Recently, there have been many bugs that should not exist in the major mission time and space. This has made the headquarters attach great importance to it. Zhang Yu is not here and I am now replacing her position to go to the headquarters for a meeting. Before this, the headquarters has issued a difficult task to clear the bug to every department. Among the remaining people in our department, I think only you can complete this task. As she spoke, Yi Xian opened her communicator and a task marked with a red asterisk appeared out of thin air in front of Su Wan. Star task, enforcer must complete. Clear the external bug in this mission world. Type of bug, Female supporting reversal system time limit. Within 10 years of the mission world. External system? Seeing the content of the task, Su-won immediately became serious. Although the various mission enforcers in the Lost Time and Space had also done rebirth, female supporting reversal, cannon fodder counterattack, and so on, they all relied on their own abilities and never used external systems to complete it. From the perspective of the world's original consciousness, whether you are reborn or transmigrated, when you become a person of this world, you will be bound by the laws of this world. If you have the ability to counterattack and turn over, it is all based on your own efforts. As long as you do not touch the laws of the world, it is allowed. However, the existence of those systems is against the laws of the world. They are foreign invaders. They were collectively known as bugs in the lost dimension. This mission is very difficult. I carefully studied that female supporting character's reversal system. It's practically a cheat code. Speaking of this, Yi Xian couldn't help but look at Su-won. Moreover, because you came back late, you have missed the best time to enter the task space. If you enter this task space at this time, the situation will probably be very bad. Of course, the reward of the mission is also proportional to the degree of danger. Hearing Yi Xian's words, Su-won didn't speak and just silently glanced at the reward points at the bottom of the task. 50,000 points. Send the mission to me. I'll take it. As she spoke, Su-won unexpectedly lay back down in the operation cabin without thinking. Since the more time she delayed, the worse the situation would be. She must race against time now. Yi Xian nodded. After passing the mission to Su-won, she hesitated and couldn't help but ask in a low voice, I'm going to the headquarters for a meeting this time. Is there anything you want me to bring to Su-su? Su-won's gaze suddenly fell on Yi Xian's face like an icy knife. Yi Xian had never seen Su-won's eyes so cold. Her heart trembled slightly and she subconsciously explained. Jiang Yu told me when he left, if I have anything to say, I will say it to him face to face. After saying this expressionlessly, Su-won had already closed her eyes and started the mission. Seeing Su-won's operation cabin slowly close, Yi Xian opened her mouth. She wanted to remind Su-won that she could actually change to the second cabin this time, but forget it. In fact, there was no difference between the third cabin and the second cabin, right? The end of the world. When accepting this mission, Su-won did not look at the mission description in detail. At this time, the information of the entire world was still stored in the depths of her memory. Su-won opened her eyes, and what entered her eyes were zombies wandering around. As far as the eye could see, it was boundless. This place was the enemy-occupied area. Su-won blinked and stared blankly at the zombies leisurely wandering around her. They didn't seem to be able to see her at all. No, it's not like this. Su-won raised her hand and found that her arm was very thick and her movements were very slow. Her cyan palm was covered with sharp cyan gray long nails. So to say, she was also a zombie? And it was even a newly advanced low-level zombie. Your sister. Although Yi Xian said that the situation in this mission world might be quite bad, Su-won never thought that it would be bad to this extent. But since she was already here, she would take things as they come. Good professionalism still made Su-won calm down very quickly. She slowly found a relatively quiet place that was not occupied by other zombies. She sat on the ground and began to slowly sort out the plot of this world. The BUG carrier of this world was called Yang Zishi. She was born in a rich family in S-City. Yang Zishi's past life was like a standard and neatly formatted life record of a vicious female supporting lead. In her past life, before the end of the world, Yang Zishi's engagement was broken off by her fiancé, Chu Feiyang, whom she had always liked. And the reason for breaking off the engagement was because Chu Feiyang's heart already belonged to someone else. At that time, Yang Zishi was very sad and unwilling. When she found out that the person Chu Feiyang liked turned out to be a commoner girl and that girl was not as good as herself, Yang Zishi began to feel mentally unbalanced. She found that girl called Su-won and used her family's job and personal safety to threaten her, making her leave Chu Feiyang. For the sake of her family, Su-won quietly left S-City with her family and left Chu Feiyang. But at this time, the end of the world broke out. After the end of the world, all money and status were useless. In this dangerous time and space, Chu Feiyang disregarded his own safety and found Su-won, who moved to T-City. At this time, Su-won's parents were already dead, and her only younger sister was also missing. Su-won, who was in a desperate situation, was rescued by Chu Fei-young. The two people saw their true feelings in adversity and finally reconciled. Not long after, T-City fell into enemy hands. Because Chu Fei-young awakened his spirit and water dual abilities, he led a small team to break out of the encirclement and set off towards S-City. On the way, Su-won also obtained this very rare healing ability by chance. From then on, the two people started the protagonist's life of showing off their love while killing zombies in the end of the world. Of course, we still have to mention Yang Zishi. After the end of the world broke out, the Yang family also suffered a disaster. Many local punks even rushed into the Yang family and ransacked everything in the villa. Yang Zishi safely left the villa under the protection of her loyal bodyguard, Yang Wu. The two people had a thrilling journey. Yang Wu awakened his fire ability and protected Yang Zishi all the way with his own strength, until the two people met Chu Fei-young's team on the way out of S-City. Seeing Chu Fei-young and Su-won's loving appearance, the jealousy in Yang Zishi's heart began to grow wildly. She and Yang Wu had no choice but to join Chu Fei-young's team in order to smoothly reach the next safe zone. But because Yang Zishi was used to a pampered life, even after the end of the world, she was always carefully taken care of by Yang Wu on the way to escape. Now, to integrate into a small team, as an ordinary person without abilities, Yang Zishi had to bear the heavy logistical work like others. In contrast, Su-won, who had the healing ability, didn't have to do anything every day and would get everyone's good impression and praise. Under the imbalance of jealousy and hatred, Yang Zishi planned to lead Su-won into a group of zombies and wanted to borrow the hands of the zombies to make her disappear. Who knew that this plan was already seen through by Chu Fei-young? At the last moment, Chu Fei-young saved Su-won and pushed Yang Zishi into the group of zombies. Originally, this world's plot that belonged to Yang Zishi ended here, but because the resentment in Yang Zishi's heart was too heavy, after her death, her soul did not disperse and was actually captured and bound by the external system. So, Yang Zishi was reborn. Reborn to a month before the end of the world. Yang Zishi not only used her own system space to store a lot of materials and energy, she could even predict the direction of the plot of this world and everyone's future through the system. When she learned that in the previous life, she was just a cannon fodder female supporting and Su-won was the female lead who had a smooth journey, this made Yang Zishi's hatred increase by another layer. Fortunately, she now had the female supporting reversal system. Counterattacking the female lead and snatching the female lead's opportunity, everything was no longer a dream. When the end of the world once again arrived as scheduled, Yang Zishi took Yang Wu alone to a mountainous area near T-City. According to the system's prompt, she found the opportunity that originally belonged to Su-won there and successfully obtained the healing ability. Moreover, she also used the system props to directly help Yang Wu stimulate the wind and fire dual abilities. Then, Yang Zishi followed the system's prompt step by step and, coincidentally, met some of the brothers who originally went through fire and water with Chu Fei-young in the previous life. In this life, Yang Zishi took them all under her command. At this time, because she used too many system points to exchange for information and props, Yang Zishi didn't have too many usable points. Fortunately, she still had the main mission of the cannon fodder to get rid of the original female lead and original male lead. As long as Chu Fei-young and Su-won disappeared smoothly, she could get a huge amount of points in one go, enough for her to open up spiritual fields and immortal springs in her system space. From then on, she would be able to travel unimpeded in the end of the world. Just like this, Yang Zishi took Yang Wu and her team and deliberately chose a long detour route. As a result, according to the system's prediction, they really met Chu Fei-young and Su-won. At this time, although the situation of the two people was not considered embarrassing, it was not as glorious as in the previous life. This made Yang Zishi feel very happy in her heart. She had already thought about how to retaliate against these two people. In the previous life, Chu Fei-young personally pushed herself into the zombie group for Su-won. In this life, Yang Zishi once again led Chu Fei-young and Su-won to the front of that group of zombies. This time, she personally pushed Su-won into the zombie group and looked at Chu Fei-young indifferently and happily. You can choose to save her or even die together with her. Of course, you can also choose to turn around and leave. We will never make things difficult for you and chase after you. The end of the world had already made people accustomed to indifference and self-protection. In the previous life, Suwon had a healing ability and could help Chu Feiyang everywhere. But in this life, Suwon, who was just an ordinary person, was only Chu Feiyang's burden along the way. Love, no matter how deep it was, in the face of ruthless time and cruel reality, it would eventually be worn away. Facing the choice given by Yang Zishi, Chu Feiyang hesitated. While he was hesitating, Suwon had already been bitten to death by the zombies. The story and the original owner's memory all stopped here. Chapter 88. Zombies and humans are very different. They don't need to rest and feed on flesh and blood. Even if they are injured, they can use their strong self-healing ability to slowly recover their broken bodies. Suwon wandered in S-City's enemy-occupied area for 3 days. The wounds on her body disappeared. At least, she looks like a healthy and normal person. Female zombie? Fundamentally speaking, zombies don't need to eat every day, but they can't not ingest nutrients for a long time. And for zombies, the best nutrients are undoubtedly human flesh and blood. Eat people? Suwon naturally won't do that. She doesn't want to be disgusted to death by herself. Now that the end of the world has just begun, many ordinary people and even ability users don't know that zombies have crystal nuclei in their brains. Yang Zishi relied on this foresight and picked up a lot of loopholes. Suwon also decided to take this path. She took advantage of the darkness and slowly wandered to the city. She found the zombies that were killed during the day and used her sharp claws to take out the crystal nuclei in their brains. Each crystal nucleus was about the same size, like a gem. Suwon hesitated for a moment and opened her mouth to use her sharp teeth to bite a few times. Crack, crack, the crystal nucleus was directly chewed and absorbed by her. Well, now it seems that having sharp teeth and nails isn't a bad thing. After absorbing the first crystal nucleus, Suwon clearly felt that her body was comfortably warm and full of strength. Thus, her gaze brightened and she couldn't help but speed up the pace of collecting the crystal nucleus. It must be known that this place wouldn't be safe if she waited until dawn. With her current body's level of a low-level zombie, if she was seen by an ability user, she would definitely be killed in seconds. Not knowing how long had passed, Suwon had already collected a small bag full of crystal nuclei. She carried the bag of crystal nuclei on her back and calculated that these crystal nuclei are not only enough for a week's rations, but also enough for her to upgrade from the lowest level zombie to a level 2 zombie. If her luck is good, she might even get some variant skills. Just as Suwon was about to turn around and leave, a low cry suddenly came from behind her. Early in the morning, on the dark street, an 8 or 9-year-old little boy was desperately covering his mouth, widening his eyes and looking at Suwon in horror. Suwon slowly turned around. She didn't expect to see a human at this time and place, and a child. Well, has she realized that she is no longer a human? Suwon walked towards the little boy step by step. The little boy seemed to be scared to death, his face extremely pale. Perhaps it was because he was scared to the limit. The little boy suddenly said, "You, come here. Don't come near me." It was obviously a young and terrified voice, but strangely enough, it was especially pleasant to listen to, as if it could inspire people's hearts. Spirit element. A naturally mutated spiritual type Esper. Suwon's footsteps paused and slightly pondered. Right now, from little Yin Yu's point of view, the scene before his eyes was like this. The dirty female zombie was carrying a strange bag. At this moment, she was standing in front of him with her head tilted and one hand supporting her chin. Her greenish-black nails seemed like they would pierce her pale and swollen head at any time and then spurt out green blood. Sob, sob, sob. Just thinking about it makes me want to die. What to do? Was he really going to die? The 9-year-old Yin Yu was very afraid. Apart from fear, there was only boundless despair. Yes, he's going to die. His father died, his mother died, his sister also died. Now, he's also going to die. Die in a street that no one knows, die in the hands of a female zombie. Yin Yu also wanted to run away, but right now, He didn't even have the strength and courage to move. How could he run? Just like what his older sister said before, as the youngest child in the family, the only boy, he was naturally more cowardly than other girls. Ho ho! The sound of the zombie so close at hand made Yinyu simply close his eyes in fear. As a result, the death he imagined did not come. Yinyu felt his stiff hands being carefully lifted up by someone, and then two things were placed in his palm. This is. Yinyu trembled and cautiously opened his eyes. He saw that the female zombie had returned to her original place and used her sharp nails to write a line of words on the ground. For you. Use your own spirit power to absorb them. It's good for your ability. This female zombie actually had her own consciousness. Yinyu blankly looked at the crystal nucleus in his palm, and then looked at the figure that had already turned around and slowly left after crossing out the words on the ground. Suddenly, he felt that this figure didn't seem to be as terrifying and ugly as he imagined. Seeing Su Wan's figure disappear into the street, Yinyu clenched the crystal nucleus in his palm. Spirit power? What is spirit power? Do I really have an ability like what she said? Thousands of miles away, B City, Greenleaf Research Institute, Underground Research Institute. A group of researchers wearing white coats were frantically busy in the laboratory, and there were many glass covers placed around the laboratory. Some of those glassware were filled with a thick green liquid, and some were soaked with zombie corpses and various human organs. This place was the Zombie Virus Research Institute. And the primary zombies that appeared in the end of the world were the failed experimental products of the supreme leader of this research institute, Dr. L. Dr. L, formerly known as Ling Jing, was born in a biological family. He was a genius in the eyes of others since he was a child, and there was often a fine line between a genius and a madman. That's right. In fact, Dr. L was a downright madman. He had been secretly studying the zombie virus and put the virus all over the world in an attempt to stimulate human genes through this virus and promote the historical evolution of human beings. From the release of the virus to the arrival of the end of the world, 2 months had passed. Because the virus that was released was actually the failed product of Dr. L's research, it did not achieve the effect predicted at the beginning, which made him very irritable. So for the past 2 months, Dr. L had been shutting himself in the innermost laboratory of the research institute and never took a step out. The experimenters under him were well aware of the doctor's temper. Even if something big happened, no one dared to disturb the doctor's experiment. And today, the door of the laboratory suddenly opened and a slender figure appeared in front of everyone. He had a tall figure, long straight legs, and a spotless white lab coat. Su Rue quietly stood at the entrance of the laboratory, a pair of cold, star-like eyes filled with a dangerous and gloomy light. Doctor! Everyone couldn't help but put down the experiment in their hands and looked at the peerless and indifferent man in front of them with fanatical eyes. Su Rue had just received the memory of the plot. At this time, his face was frighteningly gloomy. He knew that Su Wan was already dead. No, it should be that the original owner Su Wan had already been killed by Yang Zishi. How could his Xiao Wan die? I'm going to S City. After coldly leaving this sentence, Su Rue quickly turned and left. He was going there to find Su Wan, whether it was turning into a zombie or a ghost. Chapter 89. After eating crystal nuclei for a week, although Su Wan was still somewhat unaccustomed to her new body, she also noticed the changes in her body these past few days. Her movements were more flexible than a week ago, and the strength in her body was also much greater. Su Wan reckoned that she could now flatten a car with one slap. Cough cough. In short, it was a violent female zombie or something. Now, there were fewer and fewer people in S City. Most of the ability users brought their families and rushed out of the enemy-occupied area, heading towards the nearest rescue station in S City. The crystal nuclei in Su Wan's bag were no longer in stock. She wanted to take advantage of the darkness to go to the city to dig some crystal nuclei back. After digging a certain amount, she should also leave this place. The sky, unknowingly, became dark. Ho, 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 ho. Night was the most favorite time for zombies. Looking at the excited companions around her, Su Wan also couldn't say what kind of mood she was in. These zombies were also once living humans. Now that they had lost their minds, they became a walking corpse. This situation was not much better than those who struggled to survive in the end of the world. Suwon slowly walked towards the city alone. Wherever she went, those low-level zombies that felt her aura all obediently retreated. They had no thoughts, but instinctively perceived the strength and danger of this companion. Yes, Suwon was now a level 2 zombie. Although she didn't activate her mutated ability, she relied on her increasingly nimble movements and the explosive power within her body. She wasn't afraid of an ordinary level 1 ability user at all. When Suwon walked into the city of S-City, there were even more zombies wandering on the streets. They hadn't eaten fresh meat for a long time and could only look for rotten corpses on the streets to satisfy their hunger. Seeing those zombies squatting on the ground and using their long nails to cut the flesh of the corpses, chewing in big mouthfuls. At first, seeing this scene, Suwon still felt a bit disgusted, but now because she deeply understood the cruelty of the end of the world, Suwon could already turn a blind eye to this kind of scene. This was the law of the jungle. In the end of the world, this human purgatory, people struggled to survive. How could zombies not be the same? Everyone wanted to survive. Such a simple request, in this end of the world, was the most expensive extravagant hope. Bypassing the street with the most zombies, Suwon unknowingly came to the place where she met the little boy last time. Hey! The boy wearing the dusty old-school uniform was still standing in the original place. His face was pale, and he seemed to be resisting the panic in his heart. Seeing Suwon's figure, the little boy suddenly jumped out of his hiding place and shouted at her. "You can understand my words, right? Nod your head if you understand." What was this feeling of being treated as a strange creature? Suwon hesitated and nodded. Seeing Suwon nod, the little boy's face lit up. He hesitated for a moment before gathering his courage and taking a step forward. Standing in front of Suwon, he slowly opened his palm. In his palm, there were 7 to 8 crystal nuclei. "I've been waiting for you. These are the things I'm returning to you." When he said this, the little boy looked at Suwon with sparkling eyes, humbly asking for praise. Ho, ho. Suwon opened her mouth and could only make such a sound. "Are you saying thank you?" Hearing Suwon's voice, the little boy helped her translate. "I know you're a good person. You're a good zombie. Can I be friends with you? I'm called Yinyu. What's your name?" Yinyu. Hearing this name, Suwon only felt that her luck was also heaven-defying. This seemingly innocent and even a little timid boy in front of her would actually be the newspaper's world-destroying villain Big Boss in the end of the world in the future, on par with Dr. L. Of course, the newspaper was not innate. It was said that every vicious and merciless villain boss had a melodramatic and heavenly bitter past, and Yinyu became a big villain because he received some stimulation. And the key person who changed the trajectory of his life was called Su Yin. She was Suwon's lost younger sister. Well, this was all ape dung ah. Suwon thought of all the memories she received about this world in her previous life. In her previous life, Suwon had never been able to find her own younger sister. At that time, she and Chu Feiyang established Feiyang Base together. At that time, everything in the base was on the right track, but it was suddenly raided by a wave of zombie army. This group of zombie army was manipulated by someone, and the mastermind behind the scenes was Yinyu, who possessed an S-rank mutated spiritual ability. At that time, Yinyu was already an 18 or 19-year-old youth, and his current appearance was like a completely different person. Yinyu, whose spiritual power was off the charts, led the zombie army and was about to break into the city. At this time, Chu Feiyang and Suwon stepped forward bravely, and when he saw Suwon's appearance, Yinyu suddenly froze. Right now, is the female lead's halo on? It turned out that when Yinyu was young, he encountered a great change in the end of the world. He wandered alone in the occupied area of S-City. At that time, he met Su Yin, who had also lost his family. Su Yin had been mischievous since childhood. Although his age was similar to Yinyu's, his courage was much bigger than his. The two children got together to wander the world. Speaking of which, they were also blessed with great life, allowing them to escape from the mouths of zombies time and time again. Unfortunately, good times didn't last long. 3 years later, Su Yin awakened a plant-type ability, and the two of them stumbled their way to the third largest base in China at that time, Longyan Base. At that time, Su Yin and Yin Yu were already in love with each other, so she naturally wouldn't be threatened. On the contrary, she resisted to the death. That small leader of the base finally flew into a rage out of humiliation and brought people to tie Yin Yu and Su Yin outside the base. He let his subordinates control Yin Yu's hands and feet, making Yin Yu watch helplessly as he raped Su Yin. Su Yin bit her tongue to commit suicide out of humiliation, but that person still didn't let her go and threw her corpse into the group of zombies with a grin on his face. Such a scene finally stimulated the dark heart under Yin Yu's timid appearance. His mutated spiritual ability was suddenly stimulated at that time and directly rose to level 3 ability. Yin Yu went berserk and killed everyone. The group of zombies on the side also gave way to him, but at this time, he only felt a bone-deep despair. When he found Su Yin, she had already turned into an ice-cold corpse, and it was still a broken remains. Who said that zombies were the most terrible in the end of the world? The most terrible thing, since ancient times, was only the human heart. Since then, what Yin Yu saw was the ugliness and greed of this world's humans. In the end of the world, these ugliness were infinitely magnified. In comparison, the zombie group was more calm and united than humans. So Yin Yu began to use his spiritual ability to learn to control zombies. Ziho slowly formed his own zombie army. After the army was formed, the first thing he did was to destroy Longyan base. Everywhere he went, not a single person survived. However, these were still not enough for Yin Yu at that time. Far from enough. He broke through one base after another until he met the woman who looked very similar to Su Yin in Feiyang base. She said that she was Su Yan's older sister. In the plot of the previous life, under the halo of the original Su Wan as the female lead, Yin Yu finally gave up the great ideal of exterminating humanity and brought his zombie army to a place where no one could find him. And now, Su Wan looked at the little wimpy boy in front of her, his eyes sparkling with hope. This is her own brother-in-law? In that case, if she had been paying attention to Yin Yu's every move, could she find the lost Su Yin in advance and avoid the tragedy of the two people in this life? It has to be said that when Su Wan extended a helping hand to Yin Yu in the beginning and gave him 2 crystal nuclei, her purpose was still not pure enough. She wanted to test the waters and make friends with this seemingly special ability user. If wasting 2 crystal nuclei can make friends with an ability user because of this, then this transaction is simply a big profit. And now, knowing that this little boy turned out to be one of the future big bosses, Yin Yu, Su Wan's desire to help him became a bit stronger. It can't be said that it was because of kinship towards Su Yin. In fact, she was only borrowing the body of the original owner and didn't have too many feelings that belonged to the original owner. Chapter 90. The chance encounter with Su Wan, in the eyes of Yin Yu many years later, was the greatest miracle in his life. Yin Yu, who was overly protected by his family since childhood, had always been an obedient and timid child. When the end of the world came, he watched helplessly as his family died one by one, and he himself survived under the protection of all his loved ones. At that time, he lived in despair, but he was also incomparably afraid of death. In S-City, he only dared to come out at night, and on a certain night, he encountered a strange female zombie. That female zombie could not only communicate with him, she even gave him the zombie's crystal nucleus, letting him open his spirit-type ability in advance. Since that day, Yin Yu held a very excited and apprehensive mood as he waited for that female zombie at the same place at night. During this period, he had already smoothly used his ability to kill several low-level zombies and found their spirit source stone, which was also the crystal nucleus in other people's eyes. Just like this, a week passed and Yin Yu finally waited for that mutated female zombie again. Compared to a few days ago, she seemed to be more pleasing to the eye. Her speed and movements were also much faster than when she left a week ago. In the boundless night, Su Wan and Yin Yu silently looked at each other for a while. Hearing a burst of footsteps suddenly coming from not far away, Su Wan immediately turned around and hid in the shadow of the corner. Yin Yu hesitated for a few steps and followed behind Su Wan to hide. It was very clear that in this child's eyes, this female zombie in front of him was safer compared to those unknown people. The footsteps slowly approached and several figures quietly stopped at the place where Yin Yu was just hiding. "Boss, I don't see that child. Could it be that he didn't come today? The one who spoke was a tall man who looked to be in his early 20s, and the person he called boss had a tall and sturdy figure with a baleful aura. Suwon recognized this person. He was called Yuan Hui. In the previous life, he was Chu Feiyang's right-hand man, and in this life, this person was Yang Zixi subordinate. Search carefully in the vicinity. If we still can't find him, we will squat here every day. We must find that child. Although Yuan Hui did not say it clearly, Suwon knew in her heart that the one they were looking for was Yin. Very obviously, Yang Zixi, who can't predict the future, also knows that Yin is hiding in S-City at this time. She sent people to find Yin. Her purpose must be to pull him under her command. After all, in the end of the world, people who have mental abilities are few in number, and ability users like Yin who have a natural variation of mental ability and can command tens of thousands of zombies is simply a rare and highly sought-after commodity. Watching as those people began to search all around and their figures got closer and closer, Yin body involuntarily began to tremble. At this time, he also realized that those people were looking for him. These days, he hid in the dilapidated building during the day and had already seen a lot of scenes of killing each other. Now that he realized that those strangers came for him, even if they didn't look so vicious, Yin still felt that they were full of malice towards him. Feeling Yin trembling, Suwon gently raised her hand and pressed down on Yin shoulder. Although Suwon's hand was currently cyan and her nails were frighteningly sharp, her actions made Yin immediately calm down. Yin spirit power was very high. He immediately felt Suwon's comfort and goodwill. Slightly turning his head, Yin looked at Suwon with some gratitude. Suwon smiled, although she knew that her smile right now must look especially terrifying. Not caring whether Yin understood her meaning or not, Suwon suddenly grabbed Yin arm and used a little strength to easily carry him on her shoulder. Then, Suwon gathered all the strength in her body and rushed out as fast as she could. Waiting to be found here, the outcome is a dead end. This four-person team won't do anything to Yin, but they will definitely eliminate her in passing. Of course, this was still under the condition that Yin didn't plead for her. If that child had a little bit of heart to plead for her and said that she was a conscious zombie, then Suwon could imagine that she would definitely be caught in front of Yang Zixi. That ending would definitely be worse than death. So, the only thing she could do now was to escape and bring Yin along. If she could run out, then run. If she was caught, at least with Yin in her hands, those people would be afraid to shoot at the rat for fear of harming the innocent. Captain, over there. It's that child. He was captured by a female zombie. The sharp-eyed team members saw Suwon and Yin flying out at a glance. Chase. Yuan Hui waved his hand, and the four people immediately chased after them. In the silent night, the streets were full of zombies. When Suwon brought Yin to the city center, it was already occupied by a group of zombies. The fresh breath of a living person made them restless, but they seemed to feel that it was Suwon's prey. They didn't act blindly without thinking, which allowed Suwon to easily pass through the block. The four-person team behind her wasn't so lucky. They were surrounded by a group of low-level zombies. Although these zombies weren't very powerful, the highest ability that Yuan Hui and the others had right now was only level 2. It really took them a few minutes to clean up a large group of zombies. By the time they finished cleaning up those zombies and went to the streets to search, they only saw a broken body wearing Yin's worn-out school uniform. It's still too late. Yuan Hui sighed. His complexion was particularly unsightly. Captain, we also did our best. That child's fate wasn't good. Something happened to him at this time, and we were also powerless. I believe that Miss Young won't blame us after we return. Miss Young, thinking of Yang Zixi, Yuan Hui's gaze was somewhat complicated. Miss Young once saved their brothers' lives, and Yuan Hui willingly followed her. It's just that sometimes when Miss Young became ruthless, it would make Yuan Hui feel uneasy from the bottom of his heart. Yuan Hui certainly didn't know that Yang Zixi was reborn with the system, and even more so didn't know that she was a 100% vicious supporting female character in her past life. There was a saying that it's easy to change rivers and mountains, but hard to change one's nature. Some people use revenge as an excuse to burn, kill, and loot, committing all kinds of crimes. This way, they would feel very happy. But hatred is a double-edged sword, especially when the person using this sword has an evil heart. Things will often move in the worst direction. It wasn't until the figures of Yuan Hui and the others had left for a long time that Su Wan brought Yin, who had changed into tattered clothes, out from the ruins of a building not far away. Yuan Hui and the others left. Su Wan didn't know what was waiting for them. According to Yang Zixi character, once she became suspicious of these old acquaintances from her past life, then their end definitely wouldn't be too good. As the saying goes, I would rather betray the people of the world than let the people of the world betray me. Yang Zixi was such a person. She was reborn and had enough capital and strength. She, who could originally protect the Yang family, only brought out Yang Wu alone. That was because the Yang Wu of the past life was dead set on her and could even die for her. This kind of man, she didn't know how to cherish in her past life. In this life, she only felt at ease to bring him by her side because of Yang Wu's loyalty. Yang Zixi was an ambitious and proud woman. When she thought that she could control the world, she would look for the man who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her and then look down on the world together. Su Wan didn't know what kind of tasks were in her system, but she could imagine that after Yang Zixi completed the task of using cannon fodder to kill the original male and female lead, her next task should be to successfully counterattack. And to counterattack and become the female lead of a world, she still needed a matching male lead. And in this world, if there was one person who could match up to Yang Zixi, then it was only him, Dr. L. Lingjing. Chapter 91. Perhaps it was because the appearance of Yuan Hui and the others made Yin feel a sense of crisis. In the end, he simply blindly followed behind Su Wan. Towards this little tale, Su Wan didn't refuse much. City's enemy-occupied area was filled with the lowest level of zombies. For the current Yin, it didn't pose any danger. Instead, the ones that could truly threaten him were those powerful ability users. A dilapidated city, a mess all over the ground. When Su Rue once again set foot on the land of City, it was very difficult to connect this place that was filled with countless zombies and the smell of decay with the glorious and modern city of the past. Leisurely strolling on the streets, the surrounding zombies seemed to feel the danger coming from him. Wherever Su Rue passed, all the zombies subconsciously retreated. The air in the enemy-occupied area was rancid. Su Rue frowned and took out a small and exquisite instrument from his bosom. The instrument kept flashing with a blue light, as if it was guiding the direction for him. A powerful ability user has appeared. In the western outskirts of the enemy-occupied area, Yin, who was already able to freely enter and exit a group of zombies, suddenly ran in front of Su Wan while panting. Jejia, should we hide? Jejia was what Su Wan made Yin call her. At the beginning, Yin followed her to this outskirts that was occupied by zombies. Because Su Wan was already the strongest among these zombies, the surrounding low-level zombies didn't try to covet Yin, this prey that belonged to Su Wan. And Yin settled down like this. Although there were very few supplies in the enemy-occupied area, there was still something for him to eat and drink alone. Recently, under Su Wan's guidance, Yin had already begun to learn to use his spiritual ability to communicate with the surrounding zombies. Today, when Yin was practicing his ability, he discovered the restlessness and uneasiness of those zombies. The atmosphere in the whole enemy-occupied area seemed to have become particularly depressed and gloomy today. Someone appeared, and that person was very powerful and also very dangerous. In fact, not only Yin, Su Wan herself also felt the strangeness in the air. Just hide. Where can she hide? She was now working hard to upgrade from a level 2 zombie to level 3. Today was the most crucial time. Could it be that she was really unlucky this time? At this time, all the zombies in the western suburbs suddenly let out a burst of impatient screams. Those sounds were ear-piercing and violent. Su Wan's body stiffened. The air gradually filled with a pressure that made her heart palpitate. That person seemed to have the highest natural ability to suppress zombies. That person's aura was especially violent and cold. Who was it? Could it be? Su Wan suddenly thought of someone. Lingjing? The father of zombies, Dr. L. If there was someone in this world who could suppress zombies to this extent without using any ability, then this person must be Dr. L. Why was he here? While Su Wan was puzzled, a slender figure had already passed through layers of zombies, leisurely strolling over. Indifferent, free and at ease, dressed in a neat black suit and pure white gloves. He came lightly, not even a speck of dust could be seen. The pressure that filled the sky made Yin Yu's complexion pale, and his chest felt stuffy. Yin Yu widened his eyes and looked incredulously at the man who floated over. He had never seen such a powerful man before. Just the imposing manner that naturally exuded from his body could oppress him to such an unbearable state. From afar, Su Rue saw Yin Yu and naturally also saw the female zombie who had been standing by Yin Yu's side. The two people, actually one human and one zombie, looked at each other from afar. Seeing Su Rue, Su Wan was indeed surprised, because this world was a task that headquarters assigned to their department. In theory, Su Rue had no way of entering. However, not only did he come to this task world, but he also suddenly appeared in front of Su Wan. Right now, Su Rue's eyes were filled with Su Wan's figure. His deep and serene pupils reflected her appearance. Although it wasn't a green-faced fanged beast, it was still very ugly. Su Wan subconsciously turned her face away. Your sister. Suddenly, she didn't want to see people. What should she do? Su Rue caught a glimpse of Su Wan's movements and subconsciously smiled. What are you hiding for? It's not like I despise you. As he spoke, Su Rue already stood in front of Su Wan and Yin Yu. At this time, Yin Yu's expression was still very unsightly, but his trembling body seemed to have calmed down a bit. He doubtfully looked at Su Rue and then turned to ask Su Wan, Jejia, you know him? Be good. Su Rue raised his hand and his big hand, wearing a pure white glove, gently stroked Yin Yu's head. You have to call me brother-in-law. Brother-in-law. Yin Yu blinked his eyes and looked at Su Wan with a face full of question marks. Original race? Different. Can also fall in love? Little friend Yin Yu felt that the door to a new world had opened to him, Su Wan. Seeing that Su Wan still turned to the side and ignored him, Su Rue simply bent down and whispered a few words in Yin Yu's ear. Yin Yu nodded and immediately ran away at lightning speed. Seeing that Yin Yu had run far away, Su Rue took a step forward and suddenly opened his arms to hug Su Wan. Su Wan's body froze there, motionless. No matter what you become, you're still my Xiao Wan. Su Rue whispered in a low voice and leaned his face on Su Wan's back. It's just that you suddenly became so tall. I don't seem to be used to it. Su Wan. When I advance to level 4, I can restore my original appearance, okay? Su Wan silently cursed in her heart and rolled her eyes. Su Rue on the side couldn't help but curl up his lips again. Actually, it's also very good for you to be like this. In the future, you can protect me, There's no need to rush to advance to level 4 and restore your human form. General Su, is it really good for you to casually use your spirit power to peep at other people's thoughts? Moreover, you don't need to restore your human form and whatnot. How heavy is your taste, Sure enough, hearing Su Rue's words, Su Wan suddenly turned around and looked straight into Su Rue's eyes. You can communicate with me spiritually? Su Rue nodded his head. You should have guessed that my current identity is Dr. L. In this world, there's probably nothing I can't do. Su Wan. Point one must be modest, Doctor. Ignoring a certain person's arrogance, Su Wan continued to use her spirit power to communicate with Su Rue. How did you enter this world? Do you also have a mission in this world? Su Rue naturally still chased after Su Wan. Of course, because of the particularity of this world, he had to go through a lot of twists and turns before he successfully received the mission to enter. I do have a mission. This time, it shouldn't conflict with yours. Su Rue couldn't help but laugh when he said this. Because this world has been tampered with by an external system, the original female lead and male lead have been cannon fodder, and the direction of the world has also begun to become chaotic. Your department's mission is to eliminate the system carriers, and my mission here this time is to try my best to repair the law of this world that is on the verge of collapse. In short, is to save the world, maintain the peace of the universe. Speaking up to here, Su Rue's eyes suddenly sparkled. Xiao Wan, what do you think about turning this world into a zombie country? Sure enough, what world destroyer boss? His method of saving the world is to destroy all of humanity and create a new race. Thinking about it, it's also great. Su-won on the side couldn't help but nod. This idea is good. I also think so. Chapter 92. With the addition of Su-rue, this world-destroying big boss, Su-won's idea of searching the entire S-city-occupied area was quickly realized. In this sweep, they harvested a number of crystal nuclei. Although they were the most common crystal nuclei, it was enough for Su-won and Yin-yu to absorb and advance. The only thing that surprised Su-won was that they didn't find Su-yin. Could it be that because of Yang Zishi's rebirth, everyone's life trajectory has changed? Su-yin shouldn't be here anymore. Of course, you have to prepare for the worst. The plot that Su-rue received was more comprehensive than Su-won. The plot of this world that Su-won received was all centered around the original female lead. And the plot that Su-rue received was more cruel and gloomy of this world. Since Yang Zishi could send people here to look for the uncorrupted Yin-yu, then it was very likely that she would also send people to kill Su-yin, who wasn't Yin-yu's Achilles heel. After all, Su-yin was Su-won's younger sister and was destined not to be used by Yang Zishi. And for such a potential enemy, or if it was Su-rue himself, he would definitely strike first to gain the upper hand. Since that's the case, we can only resign ourselves to fate. Let's also leave this place. After communicating with Su-rue with her spirit power for a while, Su-won decided to leave the S-city occupied area. There was no meaning for her to stay here anymore. It was already the 3rd month after the apocalypse, and level 3 ability users had begun to emerge among the humans. These powerful ability users had set up fortresses in some of the towns that were lucky enough to survive the apocalypse and established various shelters or survivor bases. The base closest to S-City was called Kanjia Base and was founded by the Kanjia Squad. At the beginning of the end of the world, this was also considered a very large base. Unfortunately, as time went on, more and more ability users advanced, and the zombies also began to upgrade and mutate. Kanjia Base gradually began to decline. Finally, the leader of Kanjia Base was killed by a level 6 mutated zombie during the process of collecting supplies. The ability user squads in the entire base either left or scattered. In the end, only a few old, weak, sick, and disabled people were left in the entire base. Their fate could be imagined. Because she knew the fate of Kanjia Base, Yang Zishi didn't choose to stay in Kanjia Base with her own people. She chose Longxiang Base, which was closest to B City. That place was easy to defend and hard to attack. Furthermore, it was close to the military fortress B City. In between Longxiang Base and B City, there was a secret military base. There was a large amount of military supplies and firearms stored there. After getting the detailed information about the military base from the system, Yang Zishi had already started to have ideas about that batch of military supplies. But before that, she had to gain a firm foothold in the Flying Dragon Special Forces base. She might even be able to cover up everything with one hand, and contrary to Yang Zishi, Su-won chose Kanjia Base. At present, she still doesn't want to expose herself too quickly. Moreover, Kanjia Base is far away from the 4 major human bases and also far away from the human army. It is currently the most suitable place for them to plan. 3 days later, outside Kanjia Base. Li Tao was a water ability user. He brought his wife and children all the way from S-City's enemy-occupied area. After several twists and turns, they finally arrived outside Kanjia Base. At this time, Kanjia Base was a scene of prosperity. There was a long queue waiting for the inspection to enter the city outside the base's gate. Now, it was no longer like the beginning of the end of the world. Now, people were clearly divided into ranks. All ability users, especially those with excellent abilities, can get privileges no matter where they go. And those ordinary people who were not favored by the heavens, if they want to enter the survivor base, they have to go through very strict screening and inspection. They also have to pay a certain amount of supplies to be qualified to become a member of the base. And even if they enter the base, they are also the lowest level of existence. According to Li Tao's ability, it was a very precious water ability. Originally, he could directly display his ability and bring his family into the base. However, just yesterday, he encountered a large number of zombies in the process of hurrying along with his wife and children. Because of a moment of negligence, his 4-year-old son was scratched by a zombie. According to the known incubation period of the virus, after this child was scratched, there would be a virus incubation period of 48 hours. After that, he would be infected and turn into a zombie. Of course, there were also a very small number of people who not only relied on their willpower to resist the virus after being scratched, but also successfully stimulated their ability. But this was a very rare situation. Li Tao understood very well that his son, Li Xiang, was only 4 years old. How could he possibly resist such a powerful virus? Kanjia base was clearly in front of him. Obviously, the extravagant hope of peace along the way, the hope of bringing peace to his family was in front of him. But that city gate was like a chasm that could never be crossed. Tao Ji. At the side, Li Tao's wife, Zhang Yimei, once again took a deep breath. She tightly hugged her unconscious son and revealed a faint smile towards Li Tao. Taoji, you go in. Don't worry about us. Just treat it as if the two of us are already dead. Mother and son were linked by heart. Zhang Yimei was reluctant to part with her son. She knew even more that she might not be able to possess an ability in this lifetime. She and her son had been her husband's burden since the beginning of the end of the world. Now that her son was in this kind of situation, she could not helplessly watch her son turn into a monster. Zhang Yimei had already thought it through. Once the incubation period passed, if he really turned into a zombie, she would kill him and then commit suicide. Yamei, what nonsense are you saying? When Li Tao heard his wife's words, he immediately interrupted her in a loud voice. I know what you're thinking. You. Don't even think about it. I won't abandon you. Even if we die, our family of 3 must die together. Hearing Li Tao's words, Zhang Yimei opened her mouth. In the end, she could only lower her head, look at the child in her arms, and silently cry. This kind of life and death choice would be played out in every corner of the end of the world every day. Some people abandon their wives and daughters, abandon their loved ones in order to live, and some people would rather die than be separated from their family. In the 10 Good Karma Buddhist scripture, it was said, life for oneself, it's a matter of heaven and earth. Every man for himself, heaven and earth destroy. The for oneself mentioned here was actually a warning to all living beings that there is cause and effect in the world. In order to not eat evil karma, one must plant good karma and obtain good karma. In life, one must not do evil, or else one will suffer the consequences of one's own evil, and heaven and earth will not tolerate it. It was this kind of warning, but it gradually became the words that those who were blinded by greed often hung on their mouths. Perhaps this was human nature, and the arrival of the end of the world. The greatest evil and greed in the depths of people's hearts were gradually aroused. In the blink of an eye, it was already sunset. There was still a long queue outside Kanjia base. Li Tao slowly walked towards the woods outside the base with his wife and child. Li Xiang had already been infected with the virus for more than 24 hours. Right now, the child's face had already started to turn blue, and even slightly swollen. If this situation was seen by other people, it would definitely cause a disturbance. Maybe even those unreasonable people would unite everyone to attack the child. This kind of situation was absolutely not what Li Tao wanted to see. Just when Li Tao's family had just walked into the woods, a team of ability users came out from the woods. The leader of the team was a young and handsome guy. Although he was only wearing ordinary clothes, Li Tao could still see from his many years of experience that this person was definitely born in a wealthy family before the end of the world and lived a superior life. Seeing Li Tao and his wife, that handsome young man slightly paused his footsteps. It's going to be dark soon. The woods are not safe. It's safer for you to stay with the others outside the city. Hearing the young man's kind reminder, Li Tao smiled gratefully. I know. And at this time, the eyes of the other person in the ability user team flashed. He quietly leaned against the handsome guy's ear and said a few words. That handsome guy's gaze slightly turned and directly fell on Zhang Yimei's bosom. Your child? Zhang Yimei was already guilty. When she was asked, she immediately panicked and retreated half a step. And at this time, Li Tao also prepared to fight at any time. Several other people in the team also noticed the problem at this time. Although the sky was a bit dark, There were still sharp-eyed people who saw the swollen face of the child in Zhang Yimei's bosom. It's an infected person. The team immediately burst into an uproar. Li Tao could clearly feel the emotions and hostility of these people. At this time, a petite figure suddenly poked her head out from behind the young captain. A tender and cute little face appeared. Is little brother sick? Brother-in-law, can you save him? The little girl looked at little Li Xiang in Zhang Yimei's bosom, and her voice carried a strong, unbearable tone. Su Yin, brother-in-law can't help them either. That's right, this young man in front of him was Chu Feiyang, and the little girl next to him was Su Wan's younger sister, Su Yin. You guys. At this time, Chu Feiyang also seemed to see Li Tao's plan. He seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes flashed with a touch of pain and struggle. Finally, Chu Feiyang still made a gesture. The people in the team muttered, and finally followed Chu Feiyang to leave. Everyone looked at Li Tao as a fool, but at this time, in their eyes, this fool was no different from a dead person. Only little Su Yin turned her head back 3 steps to look at Li Tao's family somewhat reluctantly. The little girl seemed to want to help, but didn't know what to do. Finally, she withdrew her gaze and quickly followed Chu Feiyang's footsteps. Li Tao finally breathed a sigh of relief. The husband and wife continued to move forward. Perhaps it was because the forest had been cleared by Chu Feiyang's team once, so they did not encounter a single zombie along the way. Finding a relatively clean place, Li Tao made a fire, took out the tools he carried with him, and used his water ability to boil a large pot of soup. This might be their family's last dinner. The husband and wife didn't speak and quietly drank the soup. Zhang Yimei held the child and leaned against Li Tao's side and fell asleep. In the middle of the night, the fire was about to burn out. Zhang Yimei suddenly woke up from her dream. As soon as she opened her eyes, she met her husband's red eyes. He was crying. Zhang Yimei panicked and immediately looked down at her child. At this time, little Li Xiang's original appearance could no longer be seen. His whole body was greenish-black, and his originally chubby little hands were now covered with long greenish-black nails. Zhang Yimei covered her mouth, trying hard not to cry. Li Tao, who was at the side, hardened his heart and finally took out the dagger from his bosom. His hands were trembling and his heart was bleeding. The sharp dagger, flashing a cold light, fell little by little and was about to pierce into the child's body. Zhang Yimei, who was at the side, tightly clenched her teeth and closed her eyes with tears streaming down her face. Good child, don't be afraid. Mother will soon come to accompany you. Just at this time, a rustling sound suddenly rang out. Li Tao's hand paused and he suddenly raised his head. Under the cold moonlight, a handsome little boy with a cold face stood not far away. Behind him were 2 zombies, a male and a female. This is Chapter 93. At the break of dawn, the gates of Kanjia Base slowly opened. A group of ability user squads received their mission early and filed out from the side door. The people who waited outside the city all night looked at the people in the base in awe. Their eyes were filled with yearning and envy. Chu Feiyang's squad also received their mission and went out as usual. When they walked out of the door, Chu Feiyang's footsteps suddenly paused. He saw Li Tao's figure in the group of ability users queuing up to enter the city. Compared to yesterday, his mood today seemed to be a lot more stable. Could it be? Chu Feiyang's eyes narrowed. He noticed that Li Tao's wife and child were no longer by his side. On the contrary, there was an 8 or 9-year-old little boy standing behind Li Tao, seemingly wanting to enter the city with him. In this era, people who abandon their wives and children are no longer as hateful as they used to be. On the contrary, if they can be decisive and harden their heart to personally kill their infected loved ones, they will instead become heroes in people's hearts. Chu Feiyang retracted his gaze and no longer paid attention to Li Tao's movements. He wasn't in the mood to care about other people's business. At the same time, he also didn't have the qualifications to judge other people's rights and wrongs, because he was also a person who once abandoned his true love. A coward. Turning around, he looked at Su Yin, who followed closely behind him. Chu Feiyang's heart felt slightly better. Su Wan, I've let you down, but you can rest assured. I will help you take good care of your only relative. This time, I will never abandon her. Chu Feiyong brought his people and quietly left. He didn't notice that Su Yin, who had been following behind him, deeply looked back at the place where Li Tao was standing when she left. Quietly standing behind Li Tao was a delicate and pretty boy. Although he lived in the precarious end of the world, that boy looked particularly clean and particularly calm. Su Yin still hasn't awakened her ability to control plants, but she was born with a strong affinity for all living creatures. Just a moment ago, she only glanced lightly, and Su Yin felt a familiar aura from that boy's body. That aura was like the aura of her sister, but brother-in-law clearly said that sister was already dead. Su Yin turned around and followed behind Chu Feiyong. Her clear eyes stared at the back of the man in front of her, but her gaze suddenly became somewhat complicated. My name is Li Tao, 32 years old, level 2 water arcana. At this time, Li Tao had already arrived at the registration office at the city gate. After showing his water ability to the inspector, Li Tao smoothly received a number to enter the city. Yin Yu, who had been following behind Li Tao, did not expose his ability. Instead, Li Tao said that he was his nephew and he was treated as a family member of an ability user and smoothly entered Kanjia Base with Li Tao. 30 miles outside Kanjia Base, occupied area, Zhang Yume's eyes were filled with tears as she watched her son running around in a group of zombies. Wherever he went, he left behind a string of ho 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 sounds. In the eyes of others, becoming a zombie was equivalent to losing everything and couldn't even be called a person. But as a mother, Zhang Yume would rather her son live like this. Moreover, he would not continue like this. One day, he would become like the other two zombies beside the young master. He would have his own consciousness and could even speak. At this time, a certain two zombies that were used as models were busy showing off their love. Su Rue, Xiao Wan, don't you think my current zombie makeup matches well with you? Su Wan, so ugly. Am I really that ugly? Su Rue, Xiao Wan is the most beautiful in my heart. Come, come, come. If you don't believe me, I'll kiss you. Just one kiss. Su Wan, die bang. A certain pitiful doctor was swung by a certain violent female zombie into a group of zombies not far away, seeing Su Rue fall to the ground. Because of the many messy disguises on his body, it caused him to toss and turn and climb up very laboriously. Seeing his embarrassed appearance for the first time, Su Wan couldn't help but laugh. Although she still had the appearance of a female zombie, when she laughed, her gaze was particularly gentle and clear. Catching a glimpse of Su Wan's smile, Su Rue simply lay on the ground and pretended to be dead. Then, he looked at Su Wan without blinking and put on a pitiful appearance of being bullied by his wife. Dr. L, where is your integrity? Seeing his face full of resentment, Su Wan couldn't help but take a few steps forward to Su Rue. She gently bent over and lifted her hand like she was lifting a chick, pulling the slender Su Rue up. Okay, stop playing. You go look at little Li Xiang. I'm going over there to absorb the crystal nucleus. Using her spirit to communicate a few words with Su Rue, Su Wan turned and walked towards the temporary residence not far away. This was the place where they temporarily settled down. It was located in the innermost part of the enemy-occupied area. Very few ability users would come here. Su Wan could absorb the crystal nucleus here with peace of mind. She was about to be promoted to a level 3 zombie. This was the most critical period. Whether or not she could successfully mutate depends on this time. Seeing that Su Wan went over to absorb the crystal nucleus, Su Rue had to reluctantly walk to the side and look at little Li Xiang from afar. Last night, Yin Yu fed little Li Xiang a bottle of medicine. That was the latest zombie virus developed by Su Rue in the laboratory. Once infected with this virus, humans would still turn into zombies, but they would retain some of the most basic human feelings and consciousness. So now, little Li Xiang was still wandering around like a child. Facing his mother, he also had a natural dependence, so he wouldn't hurt Zhang Yume. In fact, according to Su Rue's idea, he wanted to directly let Zhang Yume also inject the new virus, but that mother refused. She wasn't worried about her own safety. She was just worried that once she failed to resist the virus and became a zombie without consciousness, then she would no longer be able to see her child and would no longer be able to protect her child. This was the so-called maternal love, the greatest and truest affection in the world. Thank you. Seeing Su Rue standing by her side, Zhang Yimei couldn't help but say thanks again. Last night, their family of 3 should have died together, but the appearance of Su Rue and the others changed the fate of their family. Zhang Yimei was an honest, ordinary person. She was like all ordinary people. In this life, she had never experienced any stormy winds and waves. This sudden arrival of the end of the world had almost made her heart collapse. And her son Li Xiang's infection was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. Last night, Zhang Yimei really despaired. But in the last moment of despair, God gave her new hope. This is the latest medicine. It can allow infected people to have a high probability of maintaining human consciousness. Are you willing to be loyal to me and follow me to build a brand new world? People who have never truly despaired will never be able to empathize with that kind of encounter of being rescued from a hopeless situation. In the cruel end of the world, ordinary people were still the largest group and the weakest group. They struggled in the zombie horde and were regarded as a burden by the ability users. They had to use all means to abandon their dignity and pride. Sometimes, they even had to sell their soul and body. This kind of abandonment of everything in exchange for a chance to struggle at death's door in the end of the world. Zhang Yimei didn't understand. Why did the world become like this? Those ability users who were high above, weren't they also one of the ordinary people in the past? They kept saying that for the new world, for the future of humanity, how hard they worked, how they shed their blood. But did they ever really look back and see what kind of life those ordinary people who were trampled under their feet were living? In fact, whether it was ability users or mutated zombies, they were still human a long time ago. Then, no matter who ruled in the future, what difference would it make to ordinary people? Zhang Yimei sighed in her heart and looked at Su Rue full of gratitude and awe. In the future, can Xiao Xiang also speak like you? Zhang Yimei really didn't ask for much. She just wanted to hear her own child call her mother again. Su Rue glanced at Zhang Yimei indifferently. This woman in her early 30s weathered the hardships of the end of the world. Now she no longer looked young, no longer beautiful, but this woman made Su Rue feel particularly sincere and warm. This was the so-called mother, your son. Not only will he become like a normal person in the future, he will also become very strong, strong enough to protect you, protect your family. Su Rue could see that Xiao Lixiang was a smart child and his age was the best age to learn all kinds of skills. At this time, Zhang Yimei still didn't know that Su Rue had already moved the idea of accepting Xiao Lixiang as a disciple. When she heard Su Rue's words, she only thought that he was comforting her. Until many years later, when her son stood at the highest point of the world, Zhang Yimei still couldn't forget that forest and the 2 zombie husband and wife who often showed affection in the forest. Someone once said that the end of the world was the most desperate and cruel world, but at the same time, it was also the most beautiful world. Chapter 94. The Howling Mountain Wind and the Dark Forest. Su Rue still wore the complicated and cumbersome zombie disguise. Right now, Zhang Yimei had already coaxed Xiao Lixiang to sleep. Su Rue had been quietly guarding by Su Wan's side. He could feel that Su Wan's spiritual power had reached a certain bottleneck. The abundant spiritual power was eager to break through but couldn't find that critical point. Tonight, she would advance. As for whether she would mutate, no one knew. Su Wan's body exuded a faint light green glimmer. Right now, her entire body was enveloped by the green light. Her originally tall body had now begun to change into a figure closer to that of a normal person. Vaguely, one could vaguely make out her once delicate silhouette. Su Rue quietly looked at Su Wan. As he looked, he suddenly deeply furrowed his brows. Su Wan's spiritual power was fluctuating greatly. The light on her body was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Through that layer of green light, Su Rue saw Su Wan's somewhat distorted face. I've never loved you. In the garden full of stars, the man's voice was as gentle and pleasant as ever, but the words he said were piercing to the bone. Never loved. What a ridiculous confession. What was the gentle care and concern in the past? So what if they were affectionate in the past? You. Su Wan felt her voice trembling. Don't joke around. I'm not joking. The man's calm gaze landed on Su Wan's face. Xiaowan, this is my and Qin Qing's wedding invitation. Come early on the wedding day. The wedding invitation was as red as blood. The things that I can't get even after working so hard, others can always get them so easily. Why do you have to pull me out of the abyss of hell again and again, only to let me fall into eternal darkness the moment you turn around? I sue one I won't forgive. Absolutely unforgivable. If I can't get it, no one else can. Dream on, Xiaowan. Xiaowan, I'm Su Rue. Can you hear me? The bright and beautiful firelight, the bright red color of blood, Su-wan vaguely heard a familiar call. So gentle, so intimate. It made her ice-cold heart slowly warm up again. Su Rue, Su Rue. Amidst the spreading flames, a slender figure slowly walked out of the flames. What greeted him was an incomparably scorching heat. He is Su-wan suddenly opened her eyes. The cold wind howled in the dark mountains. Su Rue quietly stood in front of her, his gaze filled with anxiety and panic. The redness in Su-wan's eyes flickered, and she opened her mouth. You succeeded. Su Rue looked at Su-wan. His heart that was hanging in the air finally fell to the ground. She had successfully advanced. Su-wan didn't seem very happy right now. She was a bit at a loss. Just as she advanced, she seemed to have returned to the past and saw that man again. Su-wan gently lowered her eyes. Thinking back to everything that had happened in the past, his heart didn't hurt as much as before. That man had always been a thorn in her heart, a hatred that she couldn't forget. But now, Su-wan suddenly felt that he wasn't as unforgettable as she had imagined. At the very least, she couldn't quite remember what he looked like. In the haste of time, the only thing that was remembered was the suffocating unwillingness that had been entangled in his heart all those years ago. Just like the vow of never forgive in the sky full of flames that year, this was the only bond between them. What's wrong? Seeing that Su-wan kept her eyes lowered and didn't speak, Su Rue couldn't help but take a step forward, wanting to touch Su-wan's shoulder. I'm fine. Su-wan lifted her face and faintly smiled at Su Rue. Guess, what kind of ability did I mutate? In? Su Rue slightly muttered to himself. It can't be that it's the same as the original owner, right? It's not the healing ability, it's the illusion ability. It was similar to the spirit ability, but its main function was to use the weakness and dark side of people's hearts to create the most realistic scene. Illusion. Su Rue fixed his gaze on Su-wan. Xiaowan, you really are the most powerful. Speaking of which, did you also enter the illusion when you just advanced? Did you see me? Did you? No. Under Su Rue's seemingly smiling yet not smiling gaze, Su-wan coldly turned her face. How could I have seen you? Impossible. Heh. Seeing that she was eager to explain, Su Rue's gaze flashed and he grinned as he rubbed against Su-wan's side. I guarded you for most of the night. I'm cold and sleepy. Let me lean against you and let me warm up for a while. I'm a zombie. Su-wan had no choice but to calmly state this fact. Zombies don't have body temperature. Doctor, what about your intelligence that far exceeds that of an ordinary person? No matter how Su-wan put on a cold face, Su Rue still went his own way and leaned on Su-wan's shoulder, his hands tightly wrapped around her arm. Ever since he failed to be a black-bellied CEO in Feng Zimu's world, Su Rue relied on eldest young Master Situ's shameless and desperate attack of showing affection to test and lower the bottom line of Su-wan's heart. As the saying goes, a chaste woman is afraid of a pestering man. General Su felt that he had already found the knack of chasing after his wife, pestering her all the time, showing affection every minute and second. The so-called flaunting of affection and splitting up quickly is definitely not true love. General Su firmly believed that true love was shown. More than half of the night had already passed. Su-wan slightly tilted her head, and what entered her eyes was Su Rue's face that had sunk into deep sleep. That originally handsome and extraordinary face had long been tossed around by himself until it was unrecognizable. But this kind of Su Rue made Su-wan feel at ease. Looking at that green and slightly sinister face, Su-wan couldn't help but chuckle in a low voice. Early in the morning, Su-wan was woken up by someone. She slightly opened her eyes and saw the little zombie, Li Xiang, squatting in front of her, and using his long fingernails to reach into her pocket again and again. What was placed in the pocket was the crystal nucleus that Su-won did not finish absorbing last night. You want it? Su-won looked at Li Xiang's pitch-black eyes and asked in a low voice. Hee. Little Li Xiang nodded his head. What a clever little guy. Zhang Yimei on the side looked at the conversation between Su-won and her son. She couldn't help but widen her eyes in surprise. You can speak? Very soon, your son will also speak again. Su-won did not look at Zhang Yimei's surprised and excited face. She took out a piece of the lowest-level crystal nucleus and shook it in front of little Li Xiang. Little guy, you know that this thing is a good thing, but can you absorb it? How to teach little Li Xiang to absorb the crystal nucleus is really a problem. Because he is too young and his consciousness is not perfect, Su-won is currently unable to communicate with him. I can teach him. Su-rue, who was next to her, didn't know when he had already woken up. His gaze also fell on little Li Xiang's body and, this child's bones are amazing. He's a good material for practicing martial arts. By the way, saving the world and whatnot, it will all depend on him and little Yinyu. General Su expressed that he was only responsible for showing affection. Little Li Xiang, Master, you've really had enough. Yinyu, cough. Actually, I think that this great task of saving the world can also be given to little Li Xiang alone. Su Yin, wait for me. Chapter 95. Longxiang Base, Central Villa Area, Villa Number 2. When Yang Wu walked into the villa, Yuan Hui and the others were sitting in the villa's hall with an ugly expression. Brother Yuan, what's wrong? Yang Wu looked at Yuan Hui with some doubts and asked softly. No, nothing. Yuan Hui's eyes flashed, and it was obvious that he didn't want to say anything more to Yang Wu. But a young man on the side saw Yang Wu's figure and opened his mouth with some excitement. He seemed to want to say something, but because of Yuan Hui's eyes, the young man immediately lowered his head and shrank back. In fact, the entire Longxiang base knew that Yang Wu was Yang Zishi's confidant. He always followed Yang Zishi's orders. Seeing that Yuan Hui didn't want to say more, Yang Wu didn't intend to ask. He went to the second floor of the villa with ease. Yang Zishi's room was in the innermost part of the second floor. As usual, Yang Wu stood outside the door and knocked on the door respectfully. Come in. Yang Zishi's somewhat low voice came from inside. Yang Wu pushed the door and entered. The people in the room saw his figure and were stunned for a moment. Then Yang Zishi's face showed a touch of joy. Ah Wu, you're back. Yang Zishi, who had been reborn once and had the system by her side, felt that anyone she saw was suspicious. At present, the only person she could trust unconditionally was Yang Wu. I'm back. Yang Wu took out a hand-drawn map from his arms. This is the map I drew outside the Green Leaf Research Institute. The security there was particularly tight. I couldn't get too close. In addition, I didn't get any information about Dr. L there. You've worked hard. Yang Zishi smiled at Yang Wu, then frowned and looked at the map drawn by Yang Wu. The Green Leaf Research Institute was Dr. L's base. According to the system, Dr. L was a mad scientist who didn't understand the ways of the world. He rarely appeared in front of people. On weekdays, he spent all his time in the laboratory. It was such a madman who personally created the current end of the world. And his current mission was to attack Dr. L, the father of zombies. This is a scam. Why does every female antagonist who has been reborn have such a deceptive system? I'm waiting online, it's urgent. As for how to attack Dr. L, the system did not give a clear route. The only hint for this mission was that whenever Dr. L appeared within 10 kilometers of the host, the system would automatically sound an alarm. What kind of ridiculous setting was this? Fortunately, the time limit for this mission was very long. It was a full 10 years. Yang Zishi was not particularly eager for success at this time. Miss, Yang Wu interrupted Yang Zishi's thoughts. Did Yuan Hui and the others make a mistake? Although Yang Wu was not a particularly smart person, he had long felt that since the last time Yuan Hui's team went to S-City to perform a secret mission, the young lady's attitude towards them had changed. Yang Zishi's eyes were slightly cold. At that time, she asked Yuan Hui to bring people to find Yinyu because at that time, Yuan Hui was her most profitable assistant besides Yang Wu. Unfortunately, Yuan Hui let her down. Not only did he not bring Yin Yu back, but he also told her that Yin Yu was killed by zombies. However, the system clearly told Yang Zishi that Yin Yu was still alive and well. Sure enough, Yuan Hui and the others were not trustworthy. In the previous life, when they were under Chu Feiyang, they always looked down on her. She shouldn't have given them a chance. Ah Wu, I only believe in you. Only you will never betray me. Yang Zishi faintly whispered. The expression on her face was complicated and inexplicable. Forever? Yang Wu slightly lowered his eyes. He knew that her so-called forever was just to let him follow by her side forever and be a competent shadow. The forever here had nothing to do with love. In fact, Yang Wu understood Yang Zishi's attitude towards him. Whether it was her indifference towards him before the end of the world or her sudden trust in him after the end of the world, these all let Yang Wu clearly understand his position. Yang Zishi would not love him, never. But he loved her. From a long time ago, he loved her. So even if he could only silently protect her like this, he would still gladly endure hardship. Right. Putting away his thoughts, Yang Wu saw that Yang Zishi was unwilling to talk more about Yuan Hui and the others, so he simply changed the topic. When I came back, I heard from the second team that something seemed to have happened over at Kanjia Base. They sent people over to ask for help. The person who was sent over was our old acquaintance. Oh. When Yang Zishi heard Yang Wu's words, she slightly raised her eyebrows. In this end of the world, her acquaintances weren't too many. And to be called an old acquaintance by Yang Wu, Yang Zishi instantly thought of that one. Is it Chu Feiyang? It seems that he mingled well in Kanjia Base. The Chu Feiyang of this life was still a dual attributability user. But without the healing Su Wan assisting him at the side, without the help of the group of good brothers in the previous life, could he still be able to laugh proudly and proudly? In fact, the person Yang Zishi hated the most should be Chu Feiyang, but she didn't kill him. In Yang Zishi's view, she wanted Chu Feiyang to live in pain for betraying his lover, to live without companions, to live alone. Then, she wanted him to watch with his own eyes, watch herself, the person who was abandoned by him, step by step, walk to the peak that he coveted but could never reach in his lifetime. Seeing the trace of hatred that flashed through Yang Zishi's eyes when she mentioned Chu Feiyang, Yang Wu silently stood at the side and didn't say anything. Chu Feiyang brought Su Yin to Longxiang this time. After he entered Longxiang Base, he regretted it. Because Yang Zishi was too famous in Longxiang, the base's #1 healing ability user, captain of the first team. It was said that she was also the sweetheart of Longxiang Base's leader, Luo Xiang. Regarding Yang Zishi, Chu Feiyang's feelings were complicated. This woman made him hate her, but at the same time, he was also somewhat afraid. Chu Feiyang could still see it as long as he closed his eyes. Not long ago, Yang Zishi smiled coldly and pushed Su Wan into the group of zombies. At that moment, her eyes were filled with bone-deep crazy hatred. Chu Feiyang, you're just like this. That day, he hesitated for a moment, and the consequences of that 1 second of hesitation was not what he wanted to bear. Su Wan died, and he could only escape in a sorry state, deceiving himself and others to live this time. Kanjia Base was suddenly besieged by a large group of zombies. Chu Feiyang was ordered by the base leader to come out and look for support. Before leaving, Chu Feiyang still subconsciously brought Su Yin along. In his view, Kanjia Base could no longer be kept, and he couldn't abandon Su Wan's younger sister again. He thought that he could let Su Yin settle down in Longxiang. But Chu Feiyang didn't expect that Yang Zishi and Yang Wu would be here, and that their status was very high. This put Chu Feiyang in a dilemma. Su Yin followed Chu Feiyang and rushed all the way. After entering Longxiang Base's reception area, she fell asleep peacefully. Su Yin kept frowning in her sleep, as if she was troubled by some bad dream. Until Chu Feiyang came in from the outside, Su Yin was immediately awakened. Did I disturb you? Chu Feiyang looked at Su Yin with some worry. No. Su Yin rubbed her eyes and found that Chu Feiyang's face was very bad. She couldn't help but ask, brother-in-law, is it that Longxiang's people aren't going to help us? And Chu Feiyang sighed and slightly nodded. They won't do anything that doesn't benefit them, and we Kanjia. Really can't take out any bargaining chips to make them take the risk. Speaking up to here, Chu Feiyong quietly looked at Su Yin. Su Yin, let's leave tomorrow. Brother-in-law will take you to B City and we'll go and rely on Yinji. Yinji Base was B City's military base and currently the largest survivors base. We're not going back to Kanjia? Su Yin stared blankly and looked at Chu Feiyong in astonishment. Then what about Shaolin Gij and the others? Or Uncle Tai? They're all waiting for us. Su Yin, Kanjia can't be saved. If we go back, we can only die. I can't. I can't abandon you again. I can't let you be in danger. Do you understand? Chu Feiyong's expression was very painful, but his gaze was very resolute. Can't. Abandon me again? Su Yin looked at Chu Feiyong's gaze slowly became cold. So, you plan to abandon Uncle Tai and the others? Just like how you abandoned my elder sister? Chapter 96. So, are you going to abandon Uncle Tai and them? Just like how you abandoned my elder sister? Su Yan's words were like thunder exploding in Chu Feiyong's mind. His face changed and his body subconsciously took a step back. Who told her? Could it be Yang Zishi or Yang Wu? Su Yan, I didn't. The matter is actually… Chu Feiyong wanted to explain something, but saw that the child in front of him already had a pale face and red eyes. So it's all true. Chu Feiyong, you really abandoned elder sister? How can you be like this? You still have the nerve to let me call you brother-in-law. I don't have a brother-in-law like you. You don't deserve to be my brother-in-law. I hate you. Chu Feiyong, don't think that I will be grateful to you just because you are good to me. I will avenge elder sister one day. As she spoke, Su Yin pushed Chu Feiyong away and quickly rushed out of the room. Su Yin. Chu Feiyong turned around and wanted to chase after her, but a tall and burly figure suddenly appeared in front of him. Yang Wu. Chu Feiyong recognized the person wearing the black ability user uniform at a glance. It was Yang Wu. Long time no see. Yang Wu softly spoke to Chu Feiyong, his tone low and his face indifferent. What do you want to do? Chu Feiyong saw that Su Yan's figure was about to disappear from his line of sight and couldn't help but become anxious. She's just a child. Don't tell me you really don't plan to let her go? Beat me, and I'll let you go. While speaking, Yang Wu already attacked without hesitation. When Su Yin ran out of the room, her face was already full of tears. Sure enough, that night, she accidentally passed by Chu Feiyong's door and heard him talking in his sleep. That's Xiao Wan. I'm sorry. This made Su Yan's heart filled with doubts. At that time, she was not willing to believe it. She always felt that brother-in-law loved elder sister so much. How could he watch her die? But the cruel reality told her that in this world, other than her own relatives, she can't trust anyone. Dad, Mom, Sister, I miss you so much. Su Yin walked aimlessly. She didn't know where she walked to. When she came back to her senses, she saw a young woman wearing a black uniform standing in front of her with a smile. Kanjia Base. The night was deep. Outside of Tsangya Land, a large and boundless horde of zombies was restlessly roaring loudly at the fortress of the base. This group of zombies suddenly gathered from 100 miles away more than 10 days ago. At the first moment, Kanjia Base activated the highest alert defense. The entire base was in a state of panic. Although the base leader Lu Qin had already sent Chu Feiyong to ask for help at the first moment, Lu Qin was very clear in his heart that no one would help them at this time. Kanjia Base was only one of the countless small bases in the end of the world. Although the people in their base didn't have to worry about food and clothing right now, compared to a real big base, their little supplies could simply be said to be insignificant. Originally, Lu Qin had already made up his mind to die. When he first built this base, he wanted to give the homeless people a stable place to live. Now that the zombies had surrounded the city, the worst that could happen was that he would die with everyone. But what everyone didn't expect was that after that large group of zombies came to the city, they didn't attack. They just surrounded Kanjia Base and roared day and night, as if calling for something. In the base, Li Tao's complexion was very bad. Originally, he could secretly meet his wife and son outside every 2 days, but after they were surrounded by zombies, he hadn't gone out for more than 10 days. Creaked in the dark, The door was suddenly pushed open. Li Tao suddenly picked up the dagger by his side. "Who is it?" "It's me." What answered him was a slightly childish child's voice. "Young master." Li Tao's tone was full of surprise. "Young master, do you have a way to get out of the city?" "Of course I have a way." Yin Yu's tone was very serious. He had already tried to use his spiritual power to communicate with these zombies these past few days. Originally, he thought that these zombies were the subordinates of a mutated high-level zombie, but the result of the spiritual communication showed that these zombies were deliberately driven here by someone, and the person who drove them seemed to want to find someone here. After determining that they didn't have any fatal danger, Yin Yu planned to take advantage of the night to go out and find Su Wan and the others to study these zombies. Half an hour later, Yin Yu and Li Tao had already left the base without anyone knowing. Under the interference of Yin Yu's spiritual power, those zombies wouldn't take the initiative to attack them. The two people smoothly shuttled through the zombie horde, but they had just walked a short distance when they were blocked by two figures. "Spirit-type little demon?" The young man wearing a white coat looked at Yin Yu with interest, his slender eyes slightly narrowed. "Imo-in, capture him back and give him to the doctor for research, okay?" The black-clothed man who was called Imo-in couldn't help but curl his lips. "You should first find the doctor and then talk?" "I can feel the doctor's breath. He must be nearby." The white-clothed man's expression was very certain, and Li Tao, who was on the side, took advantage of the two people's careless conversation and was about to secretly activate his ability. The man called Imo-in suddenly pulled out a strangely shaped pistol from his waist. "Don't move otherwise. The one who will suffer will be you." Spiritual Power Pistol, Green Leaf Research Institute's product, specialized in restraining various abilities. This gun, Yin Yu pursed his lips and said with a cold expression, "I know where the person you're looking for is." "And?" The two men looked at Yin Yu in surprise. That white-clothed man couldn't help but laugh. "Little demon, you mustn't lie to people, otherwise, Gidge, I will be very angry." "Why would I lie to you? I also happen to be going to look for him. If you believe me, then you guys come with me." "Okay, you lead the way." Imo-in put away his gun and looked at Yin Yu with a heavy gaze. Being looked at by him made Yin Yu somewhat flustered, but when he thought of his sister and brother-in-law, Yin Yu immediately felt full of confidence. Brother-in-law said, "In this world, there is nothing to be afraid of. What has always been fearful and uneasy is only a person's own heart. Come with me." Yin Yu took a deep breath and brought Li Tao and the other two people to the place where Su Wan and the others were hiding. It was already late at night. Zhang Yimei and her son had already fallen asleep, and Su Rui and Su Wan had just rested. When Yin Yu brought the three of them and slowly walked over, Su Wan and Su Rui were immediately roused. Yin Yu came back. Su Wan glanced at Su Rui. "He also brought guests. They came to look for you, right?" In fact, Su Wan felt those two people after they appeared for the first time more than 10 days ago. But Su Rui said that she didn't need to pay attention to them, so Su Wan naturally let it take its course and treated them as if they didn't exist. At this time, Yin Yu had already walked outside the ruins where they were resting. "Brother-in-law, are you there? There are two people who want to see you." Yin Yu didn't go in, but shouted loudly from outside instead. A certain two behind. What the hell is brother-in-law? Just when the two people were baffled, they saw a male and a female zombies slowly walking out of the ruins. This is a familiar breath hit them in the face in an instant, making the two people dumbstruck in place. "What's going on here? Why is this male zombie's breath so similar to my family's doctor?" Cough, cough. No, how could the doctor be a zombie? Even if the doctor really turned into a zombie, he would definitely be the most handsome zombie in the world. Isn't that so? So, what the hell is this ugly freak in front of them? Gee, I know you're ridiculing me. Su Rui suddenly opened his mouth, his voice as cold as ice. "Bo, doctor." The man dressed in white fiercely swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stared at Su Rui not far away. His tone was full of excitement. "Doctor, you're really a doctor? Doctor, how did you become like this? Are you experiencing life? Doctor, don't tell me you're using your body to test the poison? Woo woo woo, doctor, you're really too great. Imoine, tell him to shut up." Su Rui coldly commanded again. "Yes." Imoine, who was on the side, immediately wrapped a well-trained hand around Chi-Yi's neck and used his palm to firmly cover his mouth. Chi-Yi, woo-woo. Woo-woo. This world is finally quiet. Brother-in-law. Yin-Yu, who finally caught the opportunity, immediately dashed to Su-Wan and Su-Rue's side. Brother-in-law, it's that one dressed in white. He's not a good person. Chi-Yi, woo-woo. Woo-woo. What crime did the Lewin family commit? Seeing that Su-Rue didn't have any reaction, Yin-Yu's gaze turned to look at Su-Wan next to him. Jejia, you have to help me teach them a lesson. They just pointed a gun at Li Tao. Chi-Yi/Imoine. The female zombie and whatnot is actually your Jejia. 3 exclamation marks were unable to express the shock in the two people's hearts in order to experience the life of a zombie. Our family's doctor actually married a zombie wife. At this time, little Li Xiong, who was awakened by the movement outside, also staggered out of the ruins. Seeing the two unfamiliar and dangerous people, he subconsciously hid behind Su-Wan and Su-Rue, his 2 small hands firmly grasping their pants. Chi-Yi/Imoine. What's the matter with this little zombie? Don't tell us this is the doctor's son? But in just a few seconds, the 3 views of the 2 people have been refreshed again and again. Seeing the 2 people's lifeless and speechless expressions, Su-Wan couldn't help but smile. She raised her hand and touched Yin-Yu's head, whispering, "You're just a little mischievous person. They are your brother-in-law's subordinates. They will also be your subordinates in the future. If you really want to teach them a lesson, then do it yourself in the future." Chi, this female zombie can actually talk? Wait a minute. She seemed to have said something incredible just now. She actually wants us to be that brat's subordinates? What kind of joke is this? The Lewin family is the elite of the elite. Imoine. When Imoine and Chi looked at Su-Rue for help, they saw Su-Rue turn his head towards Yin-Yu and say with a smile, "Your Jejia is right. They will be under your command in the future." Imoine. Chi-Yi, doctor. Didn't you say that you will be our good boss for a lifetime? Su-Rue. Chi-Yi. All right, don't need a lifetime. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.